it not doing it?
Well, good evening. Here we are at 6:15 on D-Trans Awareness Day. I've had a long, hard day of it. I've been teaching grafting from 8 in the morning to 4 p.m. I'm already getting echoes. We're going to have to turn that echo off. Fair enough. Just as a test, let me see to what extent I can manipulate my two screens here. I have a scene 1 is me plus, this is me talking in the corner, plus the protesters. Very good. So what we have up here is a video queued up and ready to go of Mr. Jeff Younger trying to speak at the University of Texas. What you're seeing here is the FAIR, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Education. They filmed this, and it's good to go for 55 minutes, continuous. What you're seeing is about 80 students, and the 80 students are full of unrest. They are wearing black bloc for the most part. They're wearing fancy hairstyles, many of them, masks, and of course they're all aware that it's a video televised event. Let me just click and see if we're actually getting any real noise here. Sure enough, you're going to be hearing a lot of that tonight. Because what I'm more interested in is the emotional processing. What I'll be doing is playing the full 55 minutes of this, as well as a full recitation of Cyebele and Attis in English and in Latin. I think there's a lot of hay to be made as far as comparing those backwards and forwards. So within OBS, which is the operating system I'm using, I can show one screen, which theoretically should have. This is showing no picture action of me. I don't like this. Video capture device. Let's remove the video capture. Yes. And then if we add a video capture device, there we go. So this is me talking into the microphone. We have the actual video capture device up and running. We're adding that to the scene here in OBS, which I just screwed it up. So the advantage here is you can have me commenting on the activities of the protesters. So if I want them to make their noise, I can have them make their noise. If I want to comment, I can have them stop making noise. This alone, folks, this alone is worth the hassle of setting up a YouTube channel and an OBS system, 2 scenes within the OBS system, and each scene having 2 separate streams within that scene, which took me considerable time and effort to figure out how to do this. As I say, Mr. Younger did not have the option to be able to turn the students off and on, which meant that he was subjected to them being autistic to him for 55 minutes. I have the extraordinary luxury that if I wish to hear from the students and have them make their metrical contribution to what I'm saying, and this will be a metrical 2 or 3 hour live stream, I can bring in their metricality. And if I wanted to stop, I can make it stop. So having taught school, having performed many times, the ability to turn the students off and on, that alone, as I say, is so extraordinarily gratifying that it makes the whole 2 to 3 hour hassle of doing this live stream tonight when I'm already tired worth the trouble. So we had a lovely afternoon doing grafting from 8 in the morning till 4 at night. This was a place where I had taught grafting a year ago, and so there was a number of grapes, number of apple trees ready to go. The students had grafted in March of 2021. Some 19 grafts had taken, some 6 had not taken, so that's a pretty good percentage. About 75% of their 1 gallon field bench grafted apples had taken. We were able to do the aftercare. We were able to unwrap the grafts. We were able to see how they looked. We were able to see whether there was taking on the one side or taking on the other side. We were able to snap off the excess twigs at the top. We were able to prune all the limbs. Most of the apples that had been grafted were in fact in full flower and full leaf, which was very pretty to see. We went out into the field. We found an old apple tree that we had grafted last year. Half a dozen of the grafts were in full bloom on that, so that was very pretty to see. Not going to let them bear fruit. They didn't grow very long, but we expect to see fruit on them in following springs. So as I said, I've been at it for 8 hours today. I'm a little bit wiped out, so we're kind of going to let the F these fascists video speak for itself, and we're going to let Cyebele and Attis speak for itself as well. So this is one scene within OBS. That is to say, it's the combination of these two streams: the stream of me talking, as well as the YouTube of the protesters for 55 minutes. Let me see if I can flip to the other scene now. Okay, so this is the same idea. Again, the camera has died, so we're going to do video capture. Remove the video capture device. Yes. And then we will do plus video capture. Okay. So the idea was that I'd be able to switch rapidly between the two scenes without having to dick around, but it looks like I am going to have to restart the camera every time. So at least we have some continuity. So here's 5 poems of identity formation. This is showing up beautifully for me. It may not show up quite so well for you. So if I pull up the YouTube of this, okay, the YouTube is not going up. Oh, there it goes. The YouTube's a little bit behind. The title page is actually showing up fairly well. It's fairly readable on my screen. I am now going to go into the... So now I have the Word window up on my other screen, and as I scroll, I get real-time feedback on the scrolling within OBS, but the live stream is actually a little bit behind. So I'm going to have to wait a few seconds to verify that the text is actually going to come up. So what we have here, Opus Generis, is the first poem of Opus Generis, is Cybele and Attis. Now, unfortunately, we do not have pictures or footage of eunuch parades in ancient Rome. This would be a good place to begin. What I was able to find on the net was actual eunuch parades, apparently in 2013, taking place in India, and I guess one eunuch parade is as good as another. You see these women in their saris, and by women, of course, I mean gentlemen who have made the decision, whether they were psychologically so disposed, or whether because they had actual bona fide intersex genitalia, or because their parents thought it would be the thing to do, that are playing the role of women. They're singing, they're dancing, they have drums, they have bright clothing, they have makeup, they have earrings, they have all the appurtenances which symbolize femininity within Indian culture. My eye was caught, being a boy lover, my eye was caught by this little 13-year-old boy here, who is an innocent bystander, and who is, of course, blown away and visibly registering his pain and confusion at seeing these persons of ambiguous gender expression on the streets of India. And I decided to kind of focus on him. He is the Tiresias figure, as it were, the one unifying consciousness that sees the entire events of the entire Opus Generis poem. I think of Opus Generis as an epyllion, a small epic, and this boy then, who is watching all of this, is drawn kind of forward towards being with men, but he's also kind of curious as to what the eunuch parade people are up to. He's confused, maybe a little upset, I don't know. Then we just have endless shots of the extreme color, the extreme excitement, the masculine jawline there, and features, but of course with red lipstick and bangles and a blue sari. Many different figures, all different ages. Lots of super intense color, super intense emotionality, presumably. The usual little side-eye jealousy. Someone being very flamboyant with the henna. Little come hither expression there. Well-packed green outfit. And of course, these people are presumably just absolutely laden laden with cultural significance within their Indian cultural context. Again, this boy caught my eye. My eye is caught by this rather anxious-looking early adolescent boy in the background of the picture on the first page. And I'm reminded of the famous quote from Mishima Yukio, who was seeing a similar procession in Japan. You can see Mishima Yukio here. Eventually, he did grow up and was able to participate in the omikosh, the carrying of the portable shrine. As a child, of course, he was completely confused and frightened by the whole thing and ran away and hid. And now we get the actual Cyebele and Attis poem. So the format for this is going to be Latin on the left and in English on the right. And of course, there's a whole battery of the most colorful and amusing and hopefully upsetting imagery that I could find to try to put across the message of this poem in the most direct way that I could. We have Latin text here. It won't hurt you. It's just Latin letters. It's not Greek or anything fancy like that. We'll get into the Greek with the Pindar. But this is just Latin letters. Super alta vectus attis celeri rate Maria. Sorry. Super alta vectus attis celeri rate Maria. So we just go on like that in the galliambic meter for hours and hours, building to a climax of Cybele emotionality. So the Cybele emotionality of this poem, it's a well-known thing. You can read all the stories about people trying to bring the mother goddess cult to Rome and the Romans not wanting it. You can read all about that in Roman history. My concern was to go back and forth, and that's why I have these two windows set up. So now if I go back to my first scene, this is yeah, unfortunately it does drop the camera stream every time I go back and forth, which is very annoying. So these people are not quite marching around, but you can clearly hear them. Fuck these fascists! Fuck these fascists! You can hear a certain amount of rhythm. It's not the galliambic rhythm. It's the spawn di anapest. Spawn di anapest. The pro-castration ideology is very clear. They're there because they want to protest Mr. Younger, who is defending his son, James Younger, against castration. So again, I have to go through this ritual of removing the video capture device. Yes. Adding the video capture device. Okay. And now I'm back in the little camera picture. So, is this a castration parade? It's not a parade in the sense that the students inside are not parading, but there apparently was a heck of a lot of people outside. And were they possessed by weird energies? I mean, it's kind of your call to make. All I can do is really report on the scenery that was going on outside, which is, where the bulk of them were outside, and they flopped in front of a police car. The police car wasn't trying to hit them. They were doing a protester thing of flopping in front of the police car, and one of them got hit, and there were no real injuries. The person was taken to the hospital and released. So I don't think it amounted to anything. But what possesses people, what gets into people that makes them want to do this and to cut off their, to recommend that a little kid's genitals be cut off? That seems to me worth some inquiry here on National D-Trans Awareness Day, 3/12/2022. It's only the second celebration of D-Trans Day, but I think it's a good day to stop and have a look at what I call the pink mist emotionality. The pink mist emotionality. So these students, and we will unfortunately have to play the entire 55 minutes before the end of this live stream. Fuck these fascists! 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 So at the beginning, they're fairly full of energy, and they think that they're clever, and they think that they're winning, and all of this. So you can see them enthusiastic. Towards the end, you see a lot more disillusionment, a lot more sense of why are we acting like this. Some of them do get more and more into it as the thing goes along, but the videographer here is really keen to capture the moments where the students are just a little bit cheesed off. What we would say in England, when I grew up in England, browned off to the idea that they're going to be maintaining this non-intellectual discourse, this non-intellectual protest discourse for an hour, when they had, people, when this was set up as an event where Mr. Younger was going to speak both personally about how he had been impacted, his family had been impacted by the ideological decision to go ahead with transitioning his son, and also the politics, because of course this is, the eyes of the nation are now on Texas here on D-Trans Day to see if Texas will be able to throw off, I say, the pink mist. Many of these people seem to feel that having access to what they call gender-affirming health care is their right. And I call it, since I'm a conservative, I call it $100,000 government-funded cross-gender fursuit. Within the world of the furries and anthrocon, there is a tendency for young people to throw fits because they don't have a $5,000 fursuit to wear to this convention because their parents won't pay for it, as if this was something that they really needed to do. And this, to me, is, I can't see that gender activities need to go beyond, if a boy wants to dress up as a girl in a Shakespeare play, let him dress up as a girl in a Shakespeare play and put on the makeup and the funny costume, and let him play the girl, Viola or whatever it is, in the cross-gender plays, and then let him scrub the makeup off and take the costume off, and that be an end of it. But no, they don't want that. They want they want a $100,000 cross-gender fursuit, and they want the government to pay for it. That's where I'm coming from. I think it's nonsense. So this is what we're here to articulate on D-Trans Awareness Day. And these are kids who think that they have the right to demand this of the government, that the government pay for this, and that the Texas Children's Hospital do this to children. And Mr. Younger, of course, if he were able to present his arguments, would say that I don't want this done to my son in particular, and I don't think it's such a good idea for it to be done to the children of Texas in general. And being a civilized person, wearing a suit and conducting himself like a civilized person, Mr. Younger is going to run for office and presumably make his voice heard in the halls of power in Texas. So again, as a civilized person who has a classical education, I'm hoping for the back and forth why Mr. Younger believes what he does, and then towards the end, there's typically a question period where people are allowed to speak out and say, well, this is what I believe, and this is why I believe it. That's what we don't get. What we do get is this back and forth discourse, this one-way political discourse where the protesters make so much noise that they prevent him from speaking. Now, any idea of them preventing him from speaking is purely illusionary because, of course, Mr. Younger in 2022 is very free to present his views via social media, via YouTube, via the interviews that people do with him on various channels. Now, of course, there's the question of whether he has been enjoined by the courts not to do this and whether he's doing this in defiance of them, which is something that he was trying to cover, but which the students were making noise while he was trying to cover that. So let's listen to more of them, because as I say, I'm exhausted and I have no cleverness, no power of interpretation to throw at these students making noise, other than to say, listen to how silly they're being in the pursuit of an ideology which would take their genitals away from them. And let's see how that's represented by Catullus in the similar protest parades of his day.
Fuck these fascists! 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 Fuck these fascists!
Now, you can clearly hear Mr. Younger saying louder, louder, when they're shouting, F these fascists, F these fascists. Mr. Younger is clearly aware that this is being all recorded, that this will be money in the bank when it comes to him trying to communicate with other conservative people in Texas, saying, look at how foolish these people are being. And this is the kind of people who are in favor of Texas Children's Hospital doing the gender mutilation surgeries on little kids. And they certainly don't look like they're being particularly swift here. They look like they're all doing the same thing. They're all chanting and shouting and banging on the table, all in unison. So Mr. Younger is clearly trying to elicit and harvest this kind of behavior, and the students are all too willing to give it to him.
Fuck these fascists! 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 Fuck these fascists!
Now, Mr. Younger, in addition to shouting along with them and shouting louder, is also clapping along with them. Is that the best strategy? I don't know. I don't know that there is any good strategy. You just have to kind of do something until they get it out of their system. And that seems to be his attitude, was the more they do it, the sooner they'll get it out of their system.
Fuck these fascists! 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 We did it! Fuck these fascists! 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 Fuck these fascists!
So at this point, we're seeing some faces that look a little bit bored, a little bit embarrassed. About half of them, I would say, looking kind of bored and embarrassed. Here we are about 2.5 minutes into the 55-minute barracking of Mr. Jeff Younger. And about half of them are really kind of thriving on the energy, putting double fuck you fingers into the air and waving their signs around and interacting with the camera and interacting with Mr. Younger in various more or less passive-aggressive ways. He's telling them what to do, and they're already doing it. So do they do what he says, in which case they're conforming to his will? Or do they not make louder protesting noise and defy him, but then not accomplish their own stated goals? So you can visibly see the cognitive distress that him telling them to do what they're already doing is causing to them. You also should be enjoying the different colors of hair, the skittle-colored hair, the pink and the blue and whatnot.
Fuck these fascists! 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 Join the collective! Join the
This might be a bit of a far-fetched comparison, but I am hearing noisemakers of various sorts. Reedy, I don't know exactly what the membrane is that's making those noises, but I'm calling those equivalent to the flutes in Cybele and Attis.
Let's go!
previous, you know, you think back to 2016 when people were harassing Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, that kind of conservative speaker on college campuses, typically you would have a little noise at the beginning, or strategically, they would wait till 40 or 60 minutes into the talk, and then 6 or 8 protesters would stand up, run around in a circle, make their noise, wave their banners, whatever, disrupt for a few minutes, and then be escorted out. What you have here is remarkable in that every time in the course of the 55 minutes, these people started to run out of energy and settle down, they would then start up again. They've changed their chant now to Deadbeat Dad. Mr. Younger, certainly not a perfect person. There's various accusations of him misrepresenting himself in terms of military service and in terms of financial resources to Dr. Georgoulis. There's accusations of him not paying his share of the court-ordered child support. Mr. Younger covers all those things. He does so regularly in all the interviews I've ever heard him speak. He always addresses those issues, which are constantly thrown at him. The students don't seem to be interested in hearing any such discourse. They simply are enjoying themselves in chanting "Deadbeat Dad." I recently received an unhappy notice from YouTube. Someone who had said in the comments to this that English was not their first language. What is it that they're actually saying? I said, well, F you fascists and deadbeat dad. I had spelled out in so many letters what it was that they were saying, and I got a nasty letter from YouTube that I was a bad person or something because I had clarified what it was that these chanters were saying. YouTube doesn't seem to be objecting to the chanters, but it does object to me clarifying what the chanters actually said. Now, we have some characters who are starting to emerge as distinct personalities from the stew, from the general stew of mob-like chanting. So this woman with the strawberry-colored hair, she wants to be heard. So this one with the strawberry hair here, she seems very concerned that she be heard above the screaming mob. So she has gone and taken it upon herself to scream at Mr. Younger, "I fucking hate you." Now, this seems to me remarkable. What is it that Mr. Younger has done? He has encouraged them to do what they're enjoying, and he's standing up to speak against the castration of his son, James. What that has to do with this lady with the red hair holding up her deadbeat daddy sign, I don't know. She may have confused him with someone else who has done her wrong. I don't know. I can't follow where she's coming from. But the point is that she finds, that is to say, she finds within this mob-like environment a safe space in which she can shout out her personal pain. And that seems to me the way this group event is leveraged for individual needs to get met. I don't think this really has anything to do with Mr. Younger. I don't think that she's ever met him before, ever seen him before. I don't know what grasp she has of the issues that he's going to be speaking about, but she takes it upon herself. We might as well listen to this again. To scream out at Mr. Younger, "I fucking hate you." That seems to me more about her. supposing at this point, Mr. Younger thinks that this will die down and he'll be able to get the bulk of his speech made and get the PowerPoints covered and make the political points and the personal points that he came to the University of North Texas to make. At what point he gives up and realizes the night is going to just be a blurry mess, I don't know. But certainly we're only 5 minutes into this, and it goes for 55 minutes. We are seeing the faces of the characters who later on become much more prominent, but they're still in their seats. They're still within the texture of the black block, whereas it's only the strawberry-haired woman that's emerged as a distinctive voice at this point, 5 minutes in. Now, the question of other conservative provocateurs is very interesting. This other person on the camera was asking these people to give their names, which of course they're masked, they're in black bloc, they feel like they're anonymous. They will of course soon be making themselves famous by screaming their heads off, but they don't seem, generally speaking, they don't seem to be coming to a political event to speak as individual students with individual names. They seem to be there to make noise and yet withhold their names. They come to an event and there's clearly cameras everywhere. It's clearly a highly charged event. They're clearly making as much noise as possible to draw attention to themselves. And the conservative provocateur is quite clearly interested in drawing attention to the fact that these people do not want their names to be disclosed, which I think is a little bit ridiculous.
Give your name! 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 Come on! Give your name! 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 Come on! You cowards! Give your name, you cowards! Excuse me, get out of my way! Stop recording. Excuse me.
Now, this the discussion of who is going to control the mechanisms of representation, of course, is hilariously interesting. They know that Mr. Younger is being recorded. There's multiple cameras up there, and yet when the camera is pointed at them, rather than saying, "Thank you for paying attention to me, I will now speak my piece," they don't want the attention. They don't want the individual focus on them. They don't want to give their names. They don't have anything particular to say. So what we're looking at, I can only conclude, is atoms sort of bouncing around within a soup of the black block, where they feel like they're in a comfortable space for as far as turning loose of their individual personalities and being subsumed into the passions of the mob. Calling them back to their names, calling them back to their individual identities, calling them to account for their bad behavior. This they experience as hostility. They want to be allowed to tantrum, to be allowed to cause trouble for someone else. But as far as saying their own names or being identified visually by cameras in their faces, this they don't want. Though some of them, as you will see, do take very individualistic roles and step forward out of the soup and take on very individualistic roles.
They're obviously giving me permission. Hey, all right! Beautiful! Don't fuck yourself! Give your name! Give your name! Give your name! Give your name! Come on! Me?
So at this point, we just saw a gentleman who I believe will turn out to be Professor Adam Briggle, B-R-I-G-G-L-E. Dr. Adam Briggle, who's a professor at UNT and who has himself a child with some sort of trans issues, for whom Mr. Younger's activism is very personal because Mr. Younger is pulling the plug. He has the ear of Governor Abbott of Texas, who is now involved in pulling the plug on the people doing these gender mutilation surgeries. This is a man who is on board it seems that he is on board with doing the gender mutilation surgeries on kids, including his own kid. And evidently he thinks that Mr. Younger should be on board with doing a genital mutilation surgery on his own son, second grade kid named James Younger. But Mr. Briggle will be up making a speech soon. Dr. Briggle, I believe he's a professor. So I believe the strawberry-haired young woman here has a red kazoo. That's one of the sources of the noise. So here's Dr. Adam Briggle, who's going to introduce himself and speak.
I'm a UNT professor. My name is...
Now, what's interesting is the students, of course, seeing a man come up who has literally wrapped himself in a trans flag. Those are the colors of the trans flag because, of course, you're mixing the pink and the blue, subject to a certain amount of trans programming from Dr. Ann Georgoulis, his ex-wife. Whether the students are doing what is right, those seem to me things where there could be some discussion, there could be some presentation of contrasting views on either side. Dr. Briggle stands up and tells the students who are acting like brats, what you are doing is right. I have to say that I do not agree with Dr. Briggle, and as I say, it's an enormously gratifying position to be in here in my trolling basement, to where I can turn Dr. Adam Briggle off, and I can say, Dr. Briggle, you have wrapped yourself in the trans flag, you have stood up at another man's event, you have engaged with the students in their inappropriate emotional behavior, and you have validated their emotionally inappropriate behavior. So, as far as Mr. Younger standing up to make a speech, I give him full credit for doing so. As far as Dr. Briggle standing up and trying to make a speech, no credit for Dr. Briggle. I'm not impressed by him at all.
Also wrong. You see, you're feeding their media narrative. I'm a UNT professor. My name is Adam Briggle. I'm also a father of a transgender child. These are difficult times. What you're doing is right, but also wrong. You see, you're feeding their media narrative about how we shut down free speech.
You're feeding their media narrative about how we shut down free speech. Why would people think that? Why would people think that? I really can't see any sense in what Dr. Briggle is saying. They are engaged in shutting Jeff Younger down. That's prima facie. That's evident on the face of it. Prima facie. Perfectly evident that that is exactly what they're doing. It will be interpreted as such because that's obviously what it is. And I don't see why Mr. Younger shouldn't smile like the Cheshire Cat at being able to harvest their inappropriate behavior and leverage it for his own political gain, which the smarter ones in the group, they know that, and yet, because of the pink mist emotionality which is floating around in the room, they're not able to stop themselves.
Say that anyway!
Hold on. You're the future. About how we shut down free speech.
They're gonna say that anyway!
Hold on. You're the future.
We are! Fuck yeah, we
You
are!
spread the misinformation about our community.
We're gonna fight back!
You're about to listen to a dinosaur from the past.
He is a dinosaur. You know you're running for fucking what?
It's a dinosaur that doesn't do child support. Hey, you should be on speak.
Today, I had an interview with Child Protective Services about to take my son away from my family.
So this is the throwing down of the political cards. What Mr. Younger has been able to do is to motivate people to take action against the transing parents and say, you know, if you're taking your kid to have their genitals chopped off, that's abuse. It's being called abuse, but this is not purely a rhetorical move. They're actually having CPS go and visit people's houses to see what these parents are doing and why. These parents who are engaged in processes which are moving in the direction of having the kids' genitals removed. As I say, I can't really object if you have a femi boy and you put him in a dress to do like theatrical stuff, Shakespeare's girly plays, that's fine. But when people are on track to have their genitals mutilated, something is going very, very wrong, and I think it is time to bring in CPS. These students, of course, are furious at the idea of CPS brought in. Dr. Briggle, of course, is furious that anyone would interfere with his ability to destroy his daughter's functionality and turn her into a son. He uses male language towards what I would imagine is his daughter. So this is very, Dr. Briggle goes for the pathos here. Mr. Younger's political maneuvering has eventuated in actual negative impact on his family as he understands it. And so he feels that he has the right to speak at the event that Mr. Younger was invited to speak at.
About to take my son away from my...
Let's enjoy Dr. Briggle over emoting about. Let's enjoy Dr. Briggle over emoting. One of the main rules I learned in post-gay work is never come between a dyke and her daddy. Okay, that goes true for gay boys and their mothers. This is the emotional process that has not happened, and it's typically for someone who's having same-sex interests. Either a girl who processes things the way her father would, sees cute little women over there, sees other women through her father's eyes, and there's no daylight, there's no separation. So, having participated in 3-year-long post-gay programs, I've seen this happen over and over and over again. The mother who cannot let her son go, the father who cannot let his daughter go, with the result that the son is throbbing to the mother's sexual energies, the mother's sexual interest in other men, or the girl with lesbian tendencies who is throbbing to her father's perspective on how beautiful and attractive girls are, and these are kids who are not able to get away from their parents, who are not able to form an independent sexual identity. So, having been in situations in these post-gay groups where I can't stand up and say, I'm going to have to take a knife and come down with the knife between the dyke and her daddy. I'm going to have to take the knife and come down between the gay boy and his mother. You can't really say that in a Christian setting. Instead, I'm going to be able to, I'm going to take the experience and the background that I have. I'm going to come into this little scene, this scene in Denton, Texas, and say, Mr. Briggle, Dr. Briggle, apparently has a daughter that he refers to by male language and from whom he cannot bear to be parted. So I want you to feel, as I help you through this commentary, I want my listeners to feel the pathos on both sides. I want my listeners to feel the pathos of the father-daughter closeness, which is a very real thing between Dr. Briggle and his daughter, who is trying to pretend to be a boy. And I also want you to feel the pathos of how terrible it is for that separation not to happen, because the closeness between father and daughter is preserved here at the cost of the daughter having gender mutilation surgery. Dr. Briggle is all for this. Dr. Younger is against this. Dr. Younger is willing to stand up for his son and pull his son away. This is this Deus Harpagos energy, which we find much later in a whole nother podcast in the Pindar's First Olympian poem, which comes after Cybele and Attis. Jeff has this Deus Harpagos energy to pull his son away from the mother who wants to keep the boy, who wants to feminize the boy, who wants to castrate the boy, the mother who is, despite being a regular American citizen of 2022, is, it seems, being run around in circles by the Cybele energy, what I call the sun keeper energy. So let us listen to the pathos in Dr. Briggle's voice. This is a daughter keeper. This is a man who is bouncing his little daughter on his knee and expects to bounce his little daughter on his knee forever, even if it costs her sexual independence, her genitalia, and her female identity. Let's all suffer along with Dr. Briggle. Let's just enjoy his pathos.
It's a child support. Hey, you should be on speak.
Today, I had an interview with Child Protective Services about to take my son away from my family.
Oh, hear the quaver, hear the quaver. This is what America's moms and dads need to focus on if they want to have a positive contribution to the gender debate. America's moms and dads just need to stand up and say, I'm a mother and I can't let my son go. I'm a daddy of a dykey girl and I can't let my dykey girl go because my dykey girl is the only son I ever had, and my little gay son, my little gay boy's son says the mother is the only confidant and friend, person that I can interact with emotionally, woman to woman. That's what I use him for, is I interact with him woman to woman. I want to keep that going. America's moms and dads simply don't know that closeness with their kid comes to an end. And that's why we have these tragedies. That's why we have this tedious business of having to sit in gender groups, church-run gender groups, year in, year out. It's the same damn story. The mother comes in leading the boy by the hand. Oh, I home-educated this boy. I take him with me on vacations. I go everywhere and I do everything with my 17-year-old son. And now I raise him as a Christian. I take him to church with me every week. And now I find he's got gay porn under his bed. Well, of course he has gay porn under the bed. He's trying to get away from me, you cockamamie woman. And likely, in the exact same way, we have these fathers who come in, and they're all rough, tough, and macho, and they have so much masculine energy. Do they give the masculine energy to boys? No, they don't. They give the masculine energy to the daughter. The daughter smokes cigars with them. The daughter drinks whiskey with them. The daughter sits on the knee and talks about how cute women are. And they just go on and on like this. And if you say, well, maybe your daughter needs to get away from you and figure out who she is as a woman. No. Like I said, the dyke and the daughter, the dykey daughter thing, you never come between a dad and the dykey daughter. It just doesn't work. So here's Dr. Briggle. Here's Dr. Briggle trying to get us into, again, it's like the Shoup interview. It's like, wow. It's like being at Yellowstone, right? Yellowstone Park is a decaying volcanic area, right? If you go off the path, you put your foot through into an actual magma of hot lava. Same thing with the Shoup interview. Shoup is talking like a normal human being, and all of a sudden you're sucked into Shoup's weird little world of autogynephilia. You can read all about that on Benjamin Boyce's interview with James Shoup. A lot of people were freaked the hell out by James Shoup because he had just had way too much AGP energy. Fair enough. Briggle here, he's got the I will not separate from my daughter ever, and I will turn her into a son energy here. I'm calling it out. I'm sorry. I've done 3 year-long post-gay programs. I've seen this kind of crap over and over and over again. America's moms and dads are unwilling to let go of their kids, and that's why we get these problems. That's why we get the little gay boy looking at exciting pictures of race car drivers and Tom Cruise in a F-16 or whatever Olympic athletes, whatever the boy's looking at. That's why we got the girl playing daddy roles, trying to play the leadership roles in church, just like the daddy figures do, and that's what she wants to be, as a daddy figure, but she doesn't, the lesbianism isn't working, and then she cries about that, but then you tell her, well, you'd have to be like less of a man then if you want to have your female identity work, and that they don't want to do. So again, these are all extremely tedious, extremely well-known things. Let's enjoy Dr. Briggle doing it again. Get that throb in his voice. Get it out, Dr. Briggle. Come on. Here he goes. Here goes Dr. Adam Briggle. Listen for that throb in his voice, the idea that there's ever going to be any separation between him and his daughter that he wants to trans up into a son.
I'm a UNT professor. My name is Adam Briggle. I'm also a father of a transgender child.
Transgender what now? A transgender child.
Difficult times. What you're doing is right, but also wrong. You see, you're feeding their media narrative about how we shut down free speech.
They're gonna say that anyway!
Hold on. You're the future.
We are. Fuck yeah, we
He
are.
spreads misinformation about our community.
We're gonna fight back. We're not gonna
You're about to listen to a dinosaur from the past.
He is a dinosaur.
It's actually
You
true.
boys are running for fucking what?
It's a dinosaur that doesn't pay child support.
Hey,
You should be on speak.
Today, I had an interview with Child Protective Services about to take my son away from my family. So if you don't think this is real for me, you're wrong. But we're at a university, and right now we're in a weird chapter of history where somehow we think it's appropriate to let somebody like this speak.
The university did nothing.
This isn't the university, this is the Young Conservatives of Texas.
No, the university did nothing to stop
The
them.
university sponsored this
He's
work.
been invited here.
We were not invited.
He's been invited by our university. You are in the right. But right now, we've had our protests. We need to let him speak.
Why?
Free speech, free speech.
It's hard for you to speak.
We might take a moment to admire Mr. Younger here, who has just been called a dinosaur. He's just had the students protesting him. He had to listen to them be told, what you're doing is right. He's listened to Briggle's half-hearted call for now 8.5 minutes into his speech time. And he is very cordial to Dr. Briggle. The difference between Jeff Younger and Dr. Briggle is that Jeff Younger understands his business as a father. I'll say that again in my typical annoying teacherly tones. Jeff Younger understands his business as a father. He understands that he has to pull little James and little Jude away from the mother who is determined to keep them. Dr. Briggle is the very type of the man who doesn't get it. He's going to keep the daughter even at the cost of mutilating the daughter, and that's the stand that he is taking. And unfortunately, the bulk of America's moms and dads, certainly the bulk of the people that bring their kids into gender identity formation groups in church, this is what they don't get, is they're bound and determined to keep a hold of their kids, white-knuckle grasp on the kids, and that's why we have this trouble. And they always bring it in, presenting as if it was the kids' problem because they found porn under their son's bed or whatever it is. But you talk to them and you see basically it's the parents aren't willing to for things to ever be any different between them and their kids. So that's sort of my job, is to call out the American parents. Mr. Younger is doing a very good job of pulling James away, and I hope things continue to go well for him against the enormous opposition.
Free speech, free speech. He's got a right to give his opinion. He's got a right.
If you have questions, there will be a Q&A, all right? Just
I'm supposing this fellow to be the Young Conservatives for Texas, the president. I think Kelly Neidert was the young woman who had founded it and was one of the leading lights who's getting more attention. This gentleman here, who is just being civilized, is not really able to make any headway against this mob. We'll go into this for another minute, and then we'll go back to Cyebele and Attis.
Free speech, free speech. Free speech, baby.
You're not loud enough. Drown me out. No.
So here comes the strawberry.
No. 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 No.
Free speech! Free speech! He's here to speak.
Speech is not protected.
Remember that this university has let us down.
It has not let you down. It has You fool! You just shouted me down, and now you're angry at me. This university has miseducated you.
Okay, Mr. Younger here is picking up one of his favorite themes. This university has miseducated you. I can't really deny that. These are people who have not mastered basic civil patterns of civil interaction. Certainly there is time for questions. Certainly they have the ability to call their own events and put their own point across. Instead, they're simply sabotaging what he has to say. We're 10 minutes into the 55 minutes. I can't take any more. So what we're going to have to do is switch to the other scene. This is Cyebele and Attis. As usual, the camera has died. So we go video capture, remove. Yes. Add. Video capture. Okay. Okay. So having been subject to the screaming emotionality of a mob, let's look at how Catullus represents the screaming emotionality of the Cybele and Attis mob. So now, rather than display both pages at the same time, I'm going to try to make it large enough to read. As I see it here in OBS, it is large enough to read. As the YouTube feed is coming across via YouTube and then back onto a separate window, it's a little hard to read. The poem is easily available on Perseus. Perseus is the online repository of classical texts that's maintained by Tufts University. So if you want to follow the discussion in more detail and you can't read what's on my screen, then by all means pull it up at perseus.tufts.edu. Go to Catullus. From Catullus, go to Catullus 63. Catullus 63, pull up the Latin, pull up the English. What we have here is a translation, I believe it's a 19th century translation by Sir Richard Francis Burton. It's a fairly straightforward. O'er high deep seas in speedy ship his voyage Attis sped, until he trod the Phrygian grove with hurried, eager tread. And as the gloomy tree-shorn stead, the she-god's home he sought, there, sorely stung with fiery ire and madman's vaguing thought, share he with sharpened flint the freight wherewith his form was fraught. So that's about as fraught a passage as you can imagine. The rhythm is very simple because it's English, and English doesn't deal very well with complicated rhythms. Phrygia, of course, was the home of Cybele. This is Asia Minor, up where Troy was, more or less. And there's always a sense that the people possessed by Cybele are going to want to leave the confines of civilization and go to the wild mountains of Phrygia, there to celebrate the Cybele rites. So that's the emotionality. That's what that going to Phrygia symbolizes. So flipping back then to the Latin, this is an image of a piglet being castrated. This is a very direct and crude image. Piglets were typically used for sacrifices, as you can read about in Aristophanes, the Thesmophoriasdouci. This is a galliambic meter. 17 syllables or so, something like that. It goes like this. Oh, by previous experiments last night, I discovered that clapping my hands into the microphone doesn't make any sound. So we will try this again. I am seeing some green bars in the microphone, so hopefully that went through. That's the pattern of galliambics. I'm hoping that you find that pattern a little bit more interesting than the noise that was being made by the protesters back in Denton, Texas. This is what it sounds like in Latin. Super alta vectus attis celeri rate maria, crugiot nemoskita to cupide pede tetegit. Adiit quopa casilvis. Excuse me. Adiit quopa casilvis redemita loca deae, stimulatus ibi furenti rabiae vagos animis, de vol sitilia cuto sibi pondera silice. Now we all know these words, wehor. This is a Texas story. My uncle is from uh, my uncle is from Texas, and he could be heard to say, "Now I already told you boys, don't bring that food into my vehicle." Vehiculum is a small device in which one is carried because the verb is weho, I carry, passive wehor, I am carried, vectus, having been carried, vehiculum, a small device for carrying people. So Attis is a Greek boy, the Greek boy of the Cybele and Attis myth, having been carried super alta maria. We think of alta in terms of altitude, but of course it can also mean a deep sea to the Romans. So Attis, having been carried over the deep sea, super alta maria, in a swift ship celerirate, Cupide, he is said to be Desirous. We know Cupido, the god of desire. Here it is Cupidus, the adjective, Cupide, the adverb, in a desirous fashion, kitato pede. We know kitos from excite or recite, but here we have kitato pede with excited foot. He has touched, tango I touch, here it is tetigit, he has touched the Phrygian grove, prugion nemos. So that's why he was carried across the sea in a swift ship, so that he might touch the Phrygian grove, nemos, with his excited desirous foot. Adiit quopaca. And he went. So that's eo ire. We know it from eo is it, which we know from the compound ex-eat. He goes out. Here we have adiit. He went towards. Not ex-eat, he went out, but adiit, he went towards loca dei, the place of the goddess. Adiit quopaca silvis redemita loca dei. He went to the dark place of the goddess, shrouded, redemita, surrounded by forests. Stimulatus ibi. So, having been driven by a mule whip, or stimulated in some sense rather, stimulatus ibi, so in that place, stimulatus, in a state of overstimulation, furenti rabiae, characterized by furious rage, vagos animis, wandering in his wits, de volsit. So this is the old verb vello, to tear off. So de volsit, he tore off, sibi, from himself, pondera, the weights, ilium, of his groin, ili pondera, with a sharp flint, that is to say with a sharp flint knife, acuto silice. Silex, of course, is flint, acuto silice, with a sharp flint. Here, of course, it means a sharp flint knife. And this is precisely what we see here going on with the little piglet in the castration restraint, I guess we would call it. So this is the beginning of this poem. And again, I wanted to focalize the horror and disgust that every boy feels at seeing boy parts ripped off. This is a guy walking around naked at some sort of a gay pride parade, and the kid's like, gross. This is an actual flint knife. This is some theatrical representation of a handsome young man tied to a dais of some sort. Around the dais, as a repeated motif, are arranged sickles. So this was the symbol of castration because, for instance, Kronos and Uranos, you can read the myth in Hesiod about how Kronos castrated his father Uranos with a sickle, and the bodily fluids falling upon the sea gave birth to heterosexual love. But here it's a Cybele, it represents the sickle that was used to castrate Attis. Attis, of course, represents a handsome young man with flowers in his hair, another flint knife. So there's some actual lamb's testicles on the ground. This is what they do with the farm animals in spring as they castrate them and they fry up the testicles as a delicacy. Notice the language, the language play here. It's very interesting comparing what it does in English to what it does in Latin. Having castrated himself, Attis is eager to join the Cybele parade. Then as the she sensed limbs were void of manly strain, and sighted freshly shed aground spot of ensanguined stain, snatched she the timbrel's ledger load with hands as snowdrops white. Thy timbrel, mother Cybele, the firstings of thy right. And as her tender fingertips on bullback hollow rang, she rose a grieving, and her song to listening comrades sang. So you can see by these italicized words that Catullus is playing with the gender. We'll see how he does that in Latin. Ledger is in légère de main, lightness of hand. So this is Latin levis, a light load. You can see the little, I found an image of sort of a free-flowing hair, free-flowing Angora garment here, a little tiara, and the symbol, the cymbals in the tambourine. So this is a free-spirited flower girl from the 60s. That, I guess, is what Attis was trying to be. Itacut relicta sensit sibi membra sine viro, etiam recente terrae sola sanguine maculans, nive is citata cepit manibus leve tympanom tuon cubebe tua mater renitia, quatiensque terga tauri teneris cavadigitis, canereae suis adortast tremebunda comitibus. And so as Attis sensed, as far as himself sibi, that his members were without masculinity, membra sine viro, his remaining members, relicta membra, because of course he's just castrated himself and thrown his genitals down, itacut relicta sensit sibi membra sine viro, et iam recente terrae sola sanguine maculans. Maculans, the opposite of immaculate, maculans, spotting with blood, spotting with recently shed blood, the ground there, kitata. Now, this is very significant because kitatus is what we would use of an excited masculine man, puer kitatus, an excited boy, or puella kitata. Kitata is gendered language for a for a female person excited. So she then excited niveis manibus. So rather than hard brown hands from working outside, she has soft white hands, niveis manibus, kitata, cepit. In her excited state, she seized up levetumpanom, the light drum. Right, so you have a little framework and you have a little bull's hide, and that makes a little drum. So they're banging on the drum to make noise. Niveis kitata cepit manibus levetumpanom. Tumpanon. Again, we get that same rhythm, that same word repeated anaphorically at the beginning of the line. Tumpanon, tuon, cubebe, tua mater renitia. So the first things, then, are the symbols by which someone is initiated into the rites of Cybele. Hence, initia, first things. Your drum, your initializing regalia, Cybele, which of course in some context comes out as cubebe rather than cubele. So, quatiensque terga tauri, shaking the hide of the bull, cavadigitis, with teneris cavadigitis, with tender hands, the hollow hide, because of course there's no bull inside, it's just the skin. So terga cava, the hollow skin, adortast. Now again, this is not adortus est. So you would say puer adortus est. The boy started up. Instead, it's puella adorta est, similar to kitata. Here we have adorta. Adortast, she started up to sing canere, hike, these things, suis comitibus, to her comrades, tremebunda. So she's so excited that she's trembling, she's feeling the passion, she's castrated herself, she's going to be with Cybele forever. This is the Cybele possession emotionality, which we're trying to build a phenomenology of to see if it can be compared to what the students at Texas were going through. Canerai suis adortast, tremebunda comitibus. Now, here, because we're operating the Judeo-Christian tradition, I managed to find some pictures of a Jewish gay pride parade in, I guess, Tel Aviv. And so there you can see a twink and a bear, which are slightly different. The bear has the brown skin, the muscles, and the hair, whereas the twink is more of the otter build. No bodily hair, no muscles to speak of, very emotional, and of course holding hands with the bear. This boy, I think, was very explicitly mentioned as being at the Tel Aviv Pride Parade. The Judeo-Christian tradition, of course, contains a lot of warnings not to go off and dance with the mother goddess like the other tribes did, because Yahweh is a father goddess and Yahweh doesn't appreciate this. But of course, the Jews go off and do this anyways, and then they're all very embarrassed and they come slinking back after having had a good time at the neighboring mother goddess activities. So this is Attis now, who was a Roman boy. Ovid figures him necessarily as a Roman boy because that's Ovid's perspective. But he gives that up to join the gay pride parade, to join the Cybele parade, and to try to get others to participate in this group emotionality. So that's one of the things I'm really looking at in Denton, is the extent to which, as has been documented for ROGD among girls, rapid onset gender dysphoria, whether the pro-castration ideology is spreading by contact amongst the UNT students. Up, Galai, high together, haste for Cybele's deep grove. High to the Dindumnayan dame, ye flocks that love to rove. The which, affecting stranger steads, as bound in exile's brunt, my sect pursuing, led by me, have nerved you to confront the raging surge of salty sea and ocean's tyrant hand, as your hate of Venus Hest your manly forms unmanned. Gladden your souls, ye mistresses, with sense of error banned. I don't know if that's a translator taking a direct swipe at the sense of thou shalt do this and thou shalt not do that, which are so strongly characteristic of the Judeo-Christian moral tradition. One of the things that you are not to do, of course, is you are not to run off and join the parade. So at the hate of Venus Hest, that's a little obscure. The behest is the command. So they are refusing to do the bidding of normal sexuality, and they are turning their back on Aphrodite, the goddess of normal sexual love, in order to be devoted to Cybele. So in Latin it sounds like this. Caught up in the frenzy, Attis leads the Maenads in the dance. Agetita dalta gallai, Cybeles nemora simulite dindumenae dominae waga pecora, haliena quae petente suadudexules loca, secta meac secutae, duce me mihi comites, rapidon salon tulistis, truculentaque pelagi, et corpus evi rastis, veneris nimio odio, hilarate raicitatis erroribus animum. So, vir is a man, evirastis, so that's a syncopated form of eviravistis. You have unmanned yourselves, corpus, as far as your body, from too much hate, veneris nimio odio, from too much hate of Venus, hilaraterai. So he addresses his fellow people who are pretending to be female as female mistresses, not hera, as we would say in Greek, but erai, same word, but here it's feminine, plural, and it means all of you who have taken on the role of the dominant female, era, the mistress of the house. Hileraterai. Now, quitatis erroribus is the errors that you make in your excitement. Quitatis erroribus. So enjoy in your soul, animum, your excited errors. Now, agitita ad alta gallai. So come on now, let's go ad alta nemora, to the lofty groves of Cybele, Cybeles, simul. Let's all go together. Simulite. This is anaphora, bringing those words back again to the front of the line. Simulite dindumenae dominae waga pecora. Rather than addressing them as humans, he addresses them as erai, mistresses, or he addresses them as waga pecora, wandering flock. In other words, they no longer have human agency. They have become an animal mob, waga pecora. the wandering flock of the Dindumnayan mistress, who, having sought an alien shore, well, it's exules, like exiles, you have followed my sect. Now, of course, Attis does not mean my Attis's sect. He is identified. He has lost his sense of identity as a specific Roman male, which presumably he started off. I mean, it's Ovid doing a dress up as a Greek boy, but of course we know it's Ovid talking to the Roman boys of the day. Sectam meac secutai, having followed, that's a feminine plural there, you girls who have followed my sect, and again, it's not Attis speaking that, that's focalized from the point of view of Cybele. Sectam meac secutai, you who have followed my sect, that is Cybele's sect, duce me, with me Cybele as leader, mihi comites, as companions to me. So this is a profound narcissism, kind of reflecting back on the self, continually reflecting back on the self, that is so profoundly narcissistic, it's not even about Attis anymore. It's simply about Attis's personality having collapsed, so where he is nothing but the conduit for the Cybele emotion. He is nothing but the conduit for the Cybele emotion. Sectam meac secutai, tuque me mihi comites. You have carried yourselves over the roaring sea, rapidon salom tulistis, the rapid salt of the harsh sea, and you have unmanned your body, et corpus evirastis, corpus eviravistis, you have unmanned your bodies, veneris nimio odio, in rejection, in your excessive rejection of what Venus, that is to say, what normal heterosexual love would tell you to do. So hileratia kitati serroribus animum. So let us enter into an ecstatic state of mind, girls, in your soul. Enter that into that frame. We would say frame of mind. The Romans said animum, in your soul. Kitati serroribus, with your excited errors. Music increases, the dancing to a frenzy. This is Zachary Quinto and James Franco reenacting Rave Days from I Am Michael. This is an attempt to poke fun at Mike Glatz, who did a lot of pro-gay stuff in the days of XY, and then he went straight. Now apparently he's gone back gay again, but they made a movie about him when he was letting on to be straight. This is a Chick tract about wild partying from The Gay Blade, 1984, by Jack T. Chick. The homosexuals wearied themselves trying to find the door from Genesis 19:11. These are just some pictures of people dancing ecstatically with drums. These are some gay people with maybe a little bit too much of the sparkly blue eyeshadow and little blue spandex outfit. Night at Horsemeat Disco, South London, 2006, looking back to voguing in the 1980s. Drive from your spirits dull delay, together follow ye, to hold the Phrygian goddess, home of Phrygian Cybele, where loud the cymbal's voice resounds with timbral echoes blending, and where the Phrygian piper drones grave bass from reed a-bending, where toss the ivy-circled heads with might the Maenades, where ply mid shrilly lully-loos the holiest mysteries, where to fly here and there be wont the she-god's voguing train, thither behooves us lead the dance in quick-step hasty strain. So the lully-loos, of course, are the ululations, which I will try to do, but I'm not very good at it. They're dressed up like maenads, which are women who are acting crazy, that is to say, in a state of religious possession. The ivy-circled heads are characteristic of the maenads, but we're not doing maenads in honor of Dionysus, which would be a normal and wholesome thing to do. Instead, you're doing a Phrygian maenadic approach. Phrygian goddess, horn of Phrygian Cybele, the Phrygian piper. We're hitting that word over and over again because this is not Greece. This is an alien cult. And it has its characteristic instrumentation, characteristic emotionality. The she-god's voguing train. So, of course, I had to play on with the voguing of the 1980s. Strike a pose, there's nothing to it. So going back and doing the moratardamente cedat simulite sequimini frugiad domo cubebes frugiad nemoradeae You hear the passionate repetition of the two prugias. Ubi cumbalum sonat vox, ubi tumpan reboant, tibi ubi canit prux, curvo grave calamo, ubi capita mina de sui yaciunt hederigerai, ubi sacrosancta cutis ulululatibus agitant, ubi sue with illa divae voletare vaga cohors, quo nos decet citatis scelerare tripudiis. At which point, we do a little dance break. So moratarda, slow delay, k dot. Let that give way. Let slow delay give way. No more slow delay. Let it give way in the mind. In other words, let your mind give yourself over to ecstatic pleasures we hear in Rocky Horror Picture Show. Simul ite, everyone's got to go right now. Simul ite, followed by possibly the gayest Latin verb form of all, sequimini. Sequor is I follow. This is the second plural imperative of a deponent verb. Sequimini, everybody follow me. Sequimini. Where to? To the Phrygian grove of Cybele, which is an alternate form of Cybele. To the Phrygian home of Cybele, to the Phrygian grove of the goddess Prugia Nemoradei. Why would you go there? Because they have the coolest dance music. Where the voice of the cymbal sounds, ubi cumbalon sonat vox, where the drum rings out, ubi tumpana reboant, where they play the Phrygian flute, which is made on a curved reed, tibi ubi canit prux, curvo grave calamo, where the Maenads shake their ivy-covered heads, hederigerai. They are wearing ivy, so they're hederigerai. Ubi capita Maenades vi yaciunt hederigerai. Where they shake, and they're holding up the holy insignia, and they're shaking them, sacrosancta. These are the holy items. Acutis ululululatibus. With sharp ululations, they are shaking the holy symbols. Where it is the normal thing to be swayed, it is the normal thing for the wandering crowd, waga cohors, of the goddess dy to fly. So other groups of men have dressed up as women and gone off to Phrygia before. It's the normal thing to do. Everybody's doing it. Let's all go off to Phrygia and dance to the dance music, where it is normal to follow where the goddess is leading. And of course, it's me. I used to be male, but now I am the goddess, and I am possessed by the goddess, and you're all going to follow me and do what people possessed by the goddess do. This is what this poem is calling you to do. It's what reading this poem is calling you to experience. Ubi sacrosancta cutis ulululatibus agitant, ubi sue with illa divae voletare vaga cohors, quo nos decet citatis celerare tripudiis. Where it is fitting. Ordinarily, Roman boys were bound by a strong code of fas nefas. This is okay, this is not okay. Decanes, this is decent. Indecanes, this is not appropriate. Fusawashkunai, as we say in Japanese. Quo nos decet citatis, where it is acceptable for us, nos decet, citatis tripudiis, to do a quick three-step. To celerare, to go fast, in a quick citatis tripudiis, a quick three-step dance. Here you have a 19th century picture of what the Maenads were up to. You have the drum, you have them dancing, carrying on in flimsy garments. Here we have a little more authentic. This is the holy symbols. This is the ivy. This is the deer, presumably for a sacrifice. This is the dance. This is holding up the... what this was a fennel stalk. We know it is finocchio, or we know it is the licorice plant that grows out in the canyons in San Diego, topped with ivy and a pine cone. They would wave this around and carry on like crazy women. Here you have the double mouth flute with a mouth band. Here you have the little cymbals being played. Here you have the drum, the hollow hide of the bull. There's a troupe of players from a mosaic in Rome. Here you have a woman from some Middle Eastern culture ululating, fluttering her tongue in the top of her mouth, that kind of a thing. It's only done by women, again, gendered, and it's typically done in times of high emotion during mourning. Here, of course, they're just being ecstatic for the fun of it. Here's another Maenad and two satyrs, waving around the fennel stalk topped with ivy and a pine cone, dancing, exposing her breast, got the little drum, carrying on. Soon as had Attis bastard she, not really female, this lay to comrades sung. The chorus sudden lily-loos with quivering, quavering tongue. Again the nimble timbrel groaned. Oh God, that was bad. Again the nimble timbrel groans, the scooped out cymbals clash. And up green Ida flits the choir. This is Mount Ida in Phrygia. And up green Ida flits the choir with footsteps hurrying rash. Then Attis, frantic, panting, raves, a wandering, lost, insane, and leads with timbrel hent, and treads the shade where shadows reign. Like heifer spurning load of yoke in yet unbroken pride, and the swift Galli follow fain their first and fleet-foot guide. So the poem is called, the poetic meter is called Galliambics, after the Galli. The Galli were these men who had castrated themselves to be with Cybele forever. Attis is turning into a Galla, it has to say a female priest, a more or less female priest, a functionally female priest of Cybele. And he's trying to get other people to join him as junior priests of Cybele, because there's that special closeness between the religious representative and the goddess herself. Simul haec comitibus Attis cecinit nota mulier. Tiasos, that's what these things are called, is tiasoi. Tiasos repente linguist repedantibus ulululat. Levetiumpano remugit, cavacumbala recrepant. Viredem citus aditidam properante pedecorus. Furibunda, simulane lans, vagavadit anima gens. Comitata timponattis per opaca nemora dux. Veloti juvenca vitan sonos indomita yugi. Rapidae tucem sequuntur gallae properipedem. So you're getting the climax of the ecstatic identification with the goddess. So Attis cecinit, not kano, I sing, not canit, he, she, or it sings, but rather cecinit, reduplicated perfect, Attis sang nota mulier, a false woman. Now, the understanding of trans, at least from Catullus's perspective, and he's the one narrating this poem, is that these were not actually men, they were nota mulier. It's a Greek word for false, fake. So, the route, let's say those people carrying the tiasoi, the fennel stalks with the ivy at the end, suddenly, with quivering, quavering tongues, linguis trepidantibus, ululululululat. They did the ululation chant. Remugit. This is to moo, like a cow goes moo. Remugit. The light drum mooed again. The hollow cymbal gave forth its sound again. And the chorus, properante pede, with hurrying foot, approached Mount Ida, viridem, green Mount Ida, kitos. The chorus, that is to say, the group of singers, in an excited state, here it's masculine because chorus is a group noun masculine, they approached green Ida, ad ida viridem, furibunda. Now, this is feminine singular, so presumably we're talking about Attis. So, raging, simultaneously gasping, she waded forward in a confused way, wandering, desperately drawing her breath, animagens, trying to suck down her breath, accompanied by a drum, Attis, peropaca nemora dux. She was the leader. Now, typically dux is a masculine noun, but sometimes dux femina. Sometimes you can have a female leader through the dark grove. So she led all of these people with her to the dark grove. Now, we saw that little deer. There has to be a sacrifice to the goddess. Everyone understands that. Veluti juvenca. So like a heifer, we tans onus, avoiding the burden, not yet tamed to the yoke. So there's a young heifer. That's how Attis is going up the mountain. Rapidai Gallai, the hyped up and accelerated Gallai, the priests of Cybele. Sequuntur ducem, they follow their leader, ducem sequuntur, properipedem, with hastening feet. We had properante pede a minute ago. So here's properipedem with sped up feet. You get a lot of funky little compounds in order to use up those 4 short syllables. Properipedem. So we're going to put them to sleep, and then we're going to go back to Mr. Younger. This is a statue of a sleeping Maenad. This is one of the famous hermaphroditical statues. You come around the back of it, you're just impressed by that. Oh man, what an ass. But then you go around the front, and it turns out to be not the gender that you wanted it to be. I don't know what gender it is. I'm not going to tell you what gender it is. But the point is, you see that ass, and you think, that's the piece of ass that I want. But then you come around the front, and it turns out to be the wrong gender. What a bummer. Exhausted by their frenzy, the Maenads fall asleep. And you'll see them running around. You'll see them running around the Denton, Texas video as well. They're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And they get hit by police cars, and they're generally carrying on like nobody's in charge of them. But when the home of Cybele they make with toil outworn, or much they lay them down to sleep, and gifts of Ceres scorn. That would be food, gifts of Ceres. Till heavy slumbers seal their eyelids, languorous, drooping lowly. And raving frenzy flies each brain, departing softly, slowly. Itakut domon cubebe stetige relasulai, nimioe labore, piger his labante languore oculo soporoperet, abit inquiete molli, rabidus furor animi. So in performance, you build to an enormous pace of speed and excitement and emotional whoop-de-doo. In the first part of this poem, here's the transition point. And so, Itakwe, as they're about to touch the shores, as they're about to touch the house of Cybele, they've gotten to wherever they're going. Las Sulai, the tired little girls, Las Sulai, as they touch the home of Cubebe, as they get home to the homeland of the mother goddess, somnum capiunt, they grab sleep. In other words, sleep grabs them and pulls them down. Somnum capiunt, they seize sleep sine cerere, without eating anything. Nimue labore. So because they are tired from too much labor, they are grabbed by sleep and pulled down into sleep. Piger sopor. Now, sleep, of course, is represented as being piger, on the move, on the go, efficient, because sleep grabs them and pulls them down. So, labante languore, gliding languor. This is what they feel after their ecstatic identification with Cybele, is they feel, they're getting tired out. So, piger sopor, diligent sleep, covers over these, I would say, he's taken as possessive, their eyes, he's oculos, the eyes to them, their eyes, with gliding languor. So they're starting to get slow. Labante languore. Now, abit, something goes away. What goes away? Rabidos furor, the raging wrath. Rabidos furor, of course we know rabies is rabies, that's raging. Rabidos furor, it goes away. Inquiete molli, into soft quiet, because they've fallen asleep. Inquiete molli, into soft quiet, and this is the rabidus furor animi, the rabid furor of their soul. It goes away. All right, so that's enough of Cyebele and Attis. We're now going to return to what the students are up to with Jeff. They're still raging. If you turn into the Denton Opossum, who is a Twitter poster, the Denton Opossum, you can get the entire narrative of the build-up to this level of excitement over the rallies in the preceding weeks. Then this moment of excitement to where they can get the better of the terrible, terrible patriarchy who wants to do a terrible, terrible patriarchal thing of not castrating his son, which they object to. And then, of course, they are outside, and one of them flops in front of a terrible symbol of the patriarchy, and they get run down in a passive-aggressive display of protesting nonsense. No one was actually hurt, so I'm not terribly worried about it. And then, of course, after which they calm down. And I hope that everyone got home okay. So we're going to switch our scene now. And as usual, the camera has died, so we have to go video device, remove. Yes. Add to the scene, video capture device, okay. And then I put it, no. I take the little red window, no. I take the little red window and I put it down here so you can see me while I talk. Not that I'm doing that. Not that I'm doing anything that exciting, but still. So let us go back now. I have to change my window to Mr. Jeff Younger. And I'm going to let this play because I'm getting tired of talking. And there's no intellectual content. Just be aware that I am trying to make the case here that Cyebele and Attis, the state of possession by Cybele, is the best lens for understanding what it is that these students are experiencing, why they're drumming, why they're shouting, why there's no brain action here at all, why it has to be castrate, 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 why they can't endure that Mr. Younger should stand up against the castration of his son, why castration is a good thing. It's because they've all bought into this mythology, and now you, Mr. Younger, have to buy into this mythology. Let's listen to them.
You have been misled. And I'm not leaving for the duration. Now
I talked about the poem, and I kind of slipped into boring Latin teacher mode. And I'm talking about ululations and banging on drums and playing flutes and a procastration goddess, which people don't believe in anymore. But we're going to give you those last couple seconds again because they're in full yelp here.
You fool! You just shouted me down, and now you're angry at me. This university has miseducated you. You have been misled. And I'm not leaving for the duration. So pound those tables and get it going. Let's go. Louder! I want you to do it for the full 2 hours.
So at this point, Mr. Younger is encouraging them, and indeed Mr. Younger is occupying an ambiguous role in my analysis because on the one hand, he has taken the very strong stand against the castration of his son. That's what he's there to speak about, and indeed against the castration of other kids who are caught up in the gender madness. But here he's encouraging the mob because what else can you do? They've obviously got a lot of this energy in their system. They have to get it out. So he's saying louder, louder, ite sequimini, make your feelings heard. I hope that he knows what he's doing as he encourages these people to vocalize and make noise as they are disposed to do.
Do it! No, she is not invited. I don't want her to speak at my speech. No!
Okay, so Jeff Younger is milking this poor strawberry-haired girl for everything she has to give, and again, her discourse is quite passionate, but quite meaningless because Mr. Younger has booked the room. He's gone through the process of being invited by the young conservatives, and he's speaking there in a very civilized manner. But these people are behaving in a manner that, again, I can only compare it to Agatita d'alta gallai. Let us go to the grove of Cybele, where it is decent and normal to castrate little boys.
Anti-speech Nazi!
Get your fucking camera away from me! Get your fucking camera away
Then
from
if
me!
you don't want to be in my camera, get out of the way!
You get the fuck out of here!
Give
Fuck
me your
you and
name!
your fucking camera!
Give me
My
your
name
name.
is Jay! Fuck you!
Good! Nice to meet you. Talk to me
No,
afterwards.
I don't want to
Talk
talk to you! You're
afterwards.
fucking disgusting!
Go ahead, hit me instead.
Oh, you guys! How the world unites!
Jeff is calling them communists repeatedly. He tends to have a rather simple and straightforward approach that he is the normal American and anyone else is a communist. That's might be a little simplistic, but it's hardly the place for a nuanced discussion. What we have not had is the appearance of the girl who's sitting over here, who later on appears and takes a very strong role with leading the screaming and claiming that she's a man and all the other things. She's referred to by various names. We'll get into her much more as this video goes on. Biscuit Banshee, Stack of Biscuits, Muffin Top, Trigglypuff's daughter, the Gunt from Unt. These are various names. I don't think the internet has really gelled on which one she's going to be called. Oddly enough, the spitter didn't become the major face of this. The strawberry-haired girl didn't become the major face of this. But the Gunt Fremont, who is still seated over here and is not launched into action, the Gunt Fremont sort of became, with her screaming, sort of became the dominant, what you might call the takeaway meme from the event back on 3-2.
Free speech! Free speech! Free speech!
Let's go. We got at least another.
Now, see, a party piece, because it's a lot of fun. It has a fun meter to it. It has a lot of theatrical elements. It's got whips. It's got a lion. It's got genitals flying all over the place. It's got handsome young men that are being courted by older men that are, really buff in the gym. Really nice homosexual imagery there. Students look at me like they don't understand about the ululation, like they don't understand about the rhythm, like they don't understand about the screaming about castration. They look at me, and I'm talking about when I was on tour 2005, 6, 7, 8. They would just look at me like they didn't understand the things that I'm talking about. The people in this room, they understand all about chanting. They understand all about rhythm. They understand all about castration. They all understand all about hysterical screaming emotionality. These are people that I would like to have, if they would behave themselves, as a chorus, so that I could be the coro didaskalos and teach them how to articulate the passions that they have, not just by, spondi anapest, like they're doing, but actual galliambics, because that scratches the itch more. If that's how they feel, that's how they should be expressing themselves.
Let's go.
And again, the approximation of the kazoo to what that flute probably sounded like back in Cyebel and Attis' day, and I showed you the picture of the mouth band with the two flutes coming out, the auloi, the D-auloi. How much of a tune they could get out of that D-auloi, I don't know. I don't know if they could get any more tune out of the D-auloi than they do out of the kazoo. Open question.
You guys, can't you hit that channel any harder? Come on, communists! 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 Communists!
Free speech, baby! Free speech!
Ukraine! You're Russia! Invade! Let's go, communists! Come on, communists!
So this is the daughter of Triglipuff, looking nothing like so much as the leader of North Korea right now, still in her seat, but she has not taken her stand at the front of the students to do her screaming. But that will come in time. We're only 13 minutes into the 55 minutes.
Come on! Can't you do better than that? Weak. Are you Trotskyite or Stalinist? Come on, put it on there!
Free speech, baby!
Jeff Younger, trolling hard, encouraging them. The essence of trolling, of course, is not that one's behavior is bad in itself. It's that it's simply a recognition that other people have the ability to put on a better show than you do, and so you might as well open the floor to allow them to put on that better show. Mr. Younger, there's literally nothing he could say that would better prove his case than allowing the students to put on their show and make their points in their Cyebel and Attis way, and he is quite prepared to make trolling remarks, that is to say, to turn the focus of attention from himself to the students, who, as I say, are making a better pitch for what he would be pitching if he was allowed to speak.
I can't hear him! Free speech, baby!
Come on, communists! Get your spelling out. Let's go. Get your spelling out. Come on. I love each and every one of you.
Spread the love, baby! Spread the love! Spread the love!
Communists unite! Communists unite! Yeah! That's just a small country. Can't you invade? Come on!
Free speech!
At this point, it's kind of interesting to see the crowd split more or less in two. About half of them are responding to Mr. Younger's energy and continuing to pound and to chant. Half of them are like, okay, this is kind of stupid. Can we like be done now? We're like 15 minutes into this. Let's hear what the man has to say. But of course, the discipline, the cohesion of the group is such that anytime any one of them says, no, let's stop, let's listen, the others will get after that person who defects from the ranks of the black bloc.
Free speech! Free speech! Free speech! Go ahead, no problem. Thanks so much, appreciate it.
GNC in China cannot hear you. Louder. Vladimir Putin cannot hear you. Louder.
Now we've just watched at 15:24 a really significant moment, because this is what Trigglypuff's daughter is known for throughout the rest of the video. She's given voice now to the first of her really great screams. So let's go back and look at this, the birth of Trigglypuff here.
I don't want to go ahead, no problem. Thanks so much, appreciate it.
GNC in China cannot hear you. Louder.
Okay, so there she goes.
Vladimir Putin cannot hear you. Louder. Louder.
Shame. Oh man, it's just horrible.
It's only the first 15 minutes. It's the first 15 minutes. The Russians have lasted 5 days. Come on. Come on, commies.
I believe the phrase used about Foucault when he was participating in the riots of 1968 was "Il s'amuse comme petit fou." He amused himself like a little crazy person. And if you go back and look at the strawberry-haired girl, she's obviously having a whale of a time, which was the phrase used to translate "Il s'amuse comme petit fou."
The first 15 minutes. The Russians have lasted 5 days. Come on.
Right, there she is, the strawberry girl, having a whale of a time. Elle s'amuse comme petit fou. Much was made of the rhetorical gesture of holding a trans pride poster upside down. I can't see a whole lot worthy of comment in the person so doing.
It's upside down, just like your ideology. It's upside down. You want upside down, your world's upside down. All right. How about a name? Come on, come on.
I'm not sure if this person is a spitter, but they seem to be, despite having drawn a hammer and sickle up here, they seem to be fairly fairly shy person.
Give us your name. Come on, have some courage. You are a coward if you're not going to give your name. You're a coward. Take off your mask. Let us see it. Come on. The faceless communist. How courageous. How courageous. Obviously, you have a problem. No backbone, no spine. Free speech Nazi. All right.
Come on, communists!
Next time, bring some markers in with you.
Can't you do better than this? Is this all you got?
Weak, weak, weak.
Okay, the daughter of Trigglypuff is now on her feet. Clearly, the juices are flowing. She's about to claim her place in the spotlight.
I'm going to correct your mistake. There we go, there we go, there we go.
Come on! Who else has more slander? Let's put more up here. Come on! More slander! More slander! Let's go! You have some slander! Write it up here!
How about a name? How about a name? How about a name? How about a name?
Fuck you.
How about a name? Are you a woman or a man? I don't know what you are.
Good for you.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay.
How about a name?
No, I'm good.
You're good. Why do you have to hide behind a mask? Really? That's backwards. It's crazy.
I don't give a fuck. You're blocking your fucking... Don't fucking touch me. You touch me while we're getting find the fuck out.
Can you, Mike?
You are lawless, godless communists!
Sure, come on. Yes.
What?
Oh, I thought they wanted me out here. Okay. Sure.
Okay, so we got the cop walking across the front. We've now gone from a 2 or 3 minute, possibly 5 minute brief statement of we don't agree with you, Mr. Younger, at the beginning of his allotted speech time. Now we have, we're coming up on 20 minutes of continuous noise and chaos. We've got people standing up. We got people getting in the face of the cameraman. We've got the cop walking across the front. Things just continue to get worse through the course of the 55 minutes.
You want me to turn it off?
I want you to keep this doorway clear. If you want to be right there, that's fine, sir, but you can't be.
Sure, good enough. I can do that.
Many of you look like Calcuts.
Okay, not a problem. It is his thing. I got you. You mind if I get my stuff, though?
The Maoists in the Cultural Revolution have a lot more conviction. Step it up! Step it up! Come on, Red Guards! Come on, Red Guards! Red Guards, come on! Let's go! More slander! More slander! More slander! Come on, more slander! I'm pointing at you. Let's do some sweat. I want you all to be as loud and obnoxious as she.
Okay, so let's just take a moment to enjoy the focus, the moment when the focus of the group starts to go to Trigglypuff's daughter here, and how pleased she looks with herself.
More slander! Come on, more slander! I'm pointing at you. Let's do some sweat. I want you all to be as loud and obnoxious as she is. Come on! Come on, commies! My God, your women are out performing you, ignorant slackers! Come on! Oh, you're slacking. I want more. You bring.
Okay, so here comes the Biscuit Banshee, ready to take the stage and give voice to ululation.
We bring us to school 5 days of invasion. You ready to go 50 minutes? Come on, communists. Let's go, communists. All I want to know is see is who you really are.
Okay, so the oven door is open and the biscuits are rising. The biscuit area is generously displayed here. So this is where we get the name Muffin Top, stack of biscuits, the Biscuit Banshee, or my personal favorite, the Gunt from Unt.
I want to see your vulgarity.
So free speech presumably covers getting in the speaker's face, flipping them off, and showing more skin than I'm comfortable looking at. The crop top, it's not long enough to do its job. Is it a crop top? Is it a shirt? Is it a sports bra with pretensions of holding up what it needs to hold up? I don't know. Whatever its job was, the Gunt is clearly in charge here, and not the black crop top. Let's look at that pull down one more time. Yeah, you can see the Gunt trying to escape. You can see the effort to pull it down, but that crop top is clearly outmatched by being what it's being asked to restrain.
This is who you are. This is who you are.
I'm just charmed by this guy right here. He's, dimly realizing that if I'm ever seen as part of this mob of Lulabelles, by anyone who's considering hiring me from a job, that's pretty much the end of my ability to hold a paid normal work. There she goes. I want to go back and capture that lean in. That's a term used by feminists. This is the lean in, because I guess she's concerned that Jeff Younger might not hear her. So this is the Gunt launching into action. Yeah, that was a very palpable lean. Didn't want to get too close to Mr. Younger, but something about him seems to attract her. There's a lot of cries of "You're not my dad, I'm not your daughter" associated with this one. A lot of these people look like le nom du père, the no of the father, or the law of the father is kind of a little bit foreign to them. In Texas, there used to be a law and order emphasis, right? Don't mess with Texas. People seem to be hungry for that, and there seems to be a real hunger for the kind of fatherly presence that Mr. Younger represents. So a lot of "I'm not your daughter," which I guess is how you flirt with a father figure when you're a person from this background. So it was the pull down and the lean that particularly caught my eye there.
God, she sounded like Trump was elected.
I want the world to see you as you really are. So look at the fists, the diaphragm support, the doughy diaphragm support, the chin raised to make the most of this person's height, and the desire to be heard, the desire to ululate for all that she's worth. And I think this is a trans person who's going to have ideas that they're a man, which will be presented later and demand to be called a man. But at this point, ululatrix, I guess, would be a more appropriate thing to call this person than the Gunt Framont or the Biscuit Banshee. Right, now notice that the forward lean has now become a backward lean. That was a very substantial backward lean for maximum ululation. There she goes. There she goes. So you look at some of the poses, and we'll flip back. We will flip back. You look at some of the exaggerated poses that are given in the vase paintings and the descriptions that you get in Catullus, and you think, well, I'm sure people never acted like that. I'm sure the Romans were very civilized, very, very stoic, because we read principally the tradition has come down to us, at least me as a Presbyterian, of course, is the Stoic tradition, which is saying no to emotion. This is the Presbyterian tradition going back to John Calvin. John Calvin goes back to Seneca. Seneca is very stoic. So the throwing back of the head and giving a full-voiced "ah," this is not stoic. This is part of a different religious tradition, and it's by juxtaposing the Denton situation here with Cyebele and Attis that I think we get a little better picture of exactly what kind of emotionality, where it's coming from, what structures it, and why these people are doing what they're doing. My pronouns are he, they. I'm 17 years old. I'm a political science major. Mr. Younger comes back very strongly with a flat ontological denial. There are no such thing as trans people. Obviously, there are plenty of people who are beset, who are bothered, who are maybe even tortured by their cross-gender personalities. A boy who has a female personality, or a girl who has a boy personality and who wants to play the warrior. But Mr. Younger flat out says that trans is not a thing, and that really pulls the plug out of these people. Jeff is clearly having a whale of a time here because he knows that it takes very little button pushing to get an extraordinary amount of emotional energy out of these people, and that emotional energy will, in the overall feedback loop of Texas politics, lead to him getting to where he wants to go. Where these people will go, I don't know. The protesters, I don't know what's going to become of them. Certainly, if they go around acting like this in stores and in social settings in Texas, it's not going to go well for them. I remember Texas having a rather stoic character. You don't show your emotionality. You don't show your intensity in Texas so much. So these people, I'm afraid, are going to mark themselves as I don't know, non-Texan, I guess. If Texas maintains the stoic demeanor of my uncle's generation. Jeff is cracking up here because the scream and fall was about nothing. I mean, she's just carrying on. So she stuffs the gun back in. She stuffs the gun back in. Maybe that's what made her scream and fall. I don't know.
Let's just do this for 2 hours so the world can see what you're really like.
Watch, here goes the gun stuff. There must have been a sense that that gun was getting out of control. I don't know. Jeff is cracking up because this woman is assailed by things that he cannot see. She's just doing what she does because she's the kind of person who hasn't been told otherwise, hasn't been told that that's not how you get what you want from civilized people. She's screaming with a sort of intentionality, like she's expecting fire to come out of her mouth, I think. That it's going to just damage people and destroy people. Look at that, the way she launches.
No!
I can't.
This is what leftist politics looks like. This is what leftist politics looks like. That's what it looks like, buddy. I'm just here doing your shit. I'm just gonna pretend like it's normal.
The Biscuit Banshee is now harping on, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man.
Can you miss?
You tired?
Yeah. When he starts to speak, I'm going to probably go for the speech. I'm going to get the first down.
So, if you can pick it up, I'll get it back from you later on then.
You miseducated me. Your job. This is what happens, professors, when you teach red guards. They turn.
I know.
Red guards. Every last one of you. Oh, I'm sure it's over your style. I don't mean this side. Are you getting tired? As the long march we This is the best thing I didn't think of this honestly. Stand up! Stand up like this man and do what you need to do. There you go. This is fantastic. Come on, left, stand up. Come on. Come on, leftists. Professors, this is what you made. Professors, this is the political environment you made. You did this. And you stay will not allow you to do it forever.
Okay, we're starting to see some agitation from this fellow who will eventually get his feet under himself and stand up and become the spitter.
He's fully aware of the fact that he has lost today. So the best thing that we can do is let him speak. Because I know for a fact that the vast majority of you people in this room do not agree with him. And those of you that do,
let him speak
I
for his
sincerely
daughter.
hope that you...
I hope you love your children. Because, sorry that you don't right now, because if they came out as trans, you wouldn't fucking believe them and they'd kill themselves. It's that simple. Do you know that somebody knows?
Yes, you are so misinformed. Unbelievable. Yeah, I am. I'm much more misinformed. You don't even know our American traditions. Your professors failed you.
It's so easy to destroy this man. They're recording and making an example of us.
They're recording and making an example of us. Yes, they are recording and making an example of you.
The majority of time for Q&A. I mean, I'm not going to force it.
Go for it, dude. You have 6 months.
Oh no, I'm not going to do all of it. It's a presentation that I do, and I'm going to skip through many.
Okay, go for it.
Go for it. No, let him start. Let him start. Let him start. Let him show us all how much of an idiot he is.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see if I can get this thing set up.
Slide.
Let's start off with the fact that my talk is actually legal.
Why are the cops protecting you then, asshole? Yeah, you're protected by the cops right now.
Your professors have failed you. You can't even go 1 minute and follow our traditional customs regarding the presentation. You can't even follow our traditional customs. You're incapable of the social interactions typical of civilized people in the West.
We don't want to be civilized.
I know you don't. I know you're barbarians. You're red guards.
Yes, you're barbarians.
And your professors taught me that. Shame on you.
You fucking Macintosh Give us another big laugh.
Cliche after nothing. I'm willing to talk if you want me to talk. I'm also willing to stand here and cheer you on in your communist ways.
Even though I'm a communist, Red Guard, quite a lot. Can you define communism?
Yes.
What's the definition, please?
It's a belief in collective ownership of property.
Okay, no, that's fair. So what part of any rhetoric or chants have you heard that, do any of that sound like collective ownership of property? Because I haven't heard anything like that personally, but you may have.
I know.
You said you know Antifa very well. I don't think anyone here has mentioned Antifa specifically.
No, I think you're the only one who does. If you're anti-Antifa, what's the fuck?
The tropes coming out now are just sad. So the idea that if you're anti-Antifa, what's fa? And they're going to go ahead and pretend that Antifa doesn't exist when the fact is they're all dressed in black and they're all doing exactly the same thing. And they're going to say, "Oh, we're so smarty pants because you can't tell who our leaders are. Who's our leaders? Who's our leaders?" These are some very, very sad, tired, "Look at us, we're so cute, we're Antifa" tropes.
No one mentioned it.
I can't wait to show the video and have you all claim your own
definition.
I love it.
Alright,
No, I've been mixing up with Antifa since the 1980s.
What do you know what Antifa is? What is Antifa? What is it? We're just dumb little kids. Tell us what Antifa is.
It's a subversion group that was founded by the East Germans, and it did a number of and after the fall of the wall, it became run by the Germans themselves.
What's it?
So if it's a group with a definitive leader, is that what you're saying?
Who's the leader then?
No, okay, I'm sorry. I seem to. How does that the German leadership then relate to what it is now here?
It has a cell structure. That's well understood.
A cell structure. Okay, can you?
Everything has a cell structure.
Because I've not seen that.
Yeah. There's several random monographs.
Okay, can you show us one? Can you show us one?
Can you pull one up for us?
You cannot.
See, you can't back it up.
Do you want to hear my speech?
Yeah. No, not really.
I did answer the question.
No.
But he wants me to go off of the journals and bring evidence. I'm not going to do that on my speech.
Hey, you can talk whenever.
Burden of proof. You're going to call us that? Burden of proof.
Just do your presentation.
Act like communists?
I'll call you. What are we doing? Here's your presentation.
All right.
You can talk.
So first of all, the talk's illegal. Here's one. And actually, as leftists, you may be with me on this. Scroll down one.
Yes.
Stop interrupting him.
So this is the gag order under.
So this is 37 minutes. This is minute 37 now. He's getting a few seconds to cover his points, which is that the court has asked him apparently not to talk on social media and whatnot, and so he's risking getting in trouble by doing so.
From a judge in Dallas County. Her name is Mary Brown. I call her Bloody Mary. She's in the 301st District Court. This gag order does not prohibit me from talking about my case, which is very strange, because the normal idea is that you don't want to bias a jury pool or something like that. This gag order prohibits me from talking about political topics. It prohibits me from talking to you about any transgender issue, anything about gender dysphoria. I'm not even allowed to tell you whether my son is a boy or a girl. Plus, it includes a lifetime ban from all social media, a lifetime ban from doing any radio interviews, newspaper interviews, television interviews, a lifetime ban. So this is clearly illegal. So I don't follow it. Because I didn't follow it, they took my children away from me on the 31st of July. Child support, and I've been current on child support. It's really weird.
Why the court order say that?
It doesn't say that.
It does. We've all kind of seen it. We've kind of all seen it. So
Really?
it's like having
Because the records are sealed. So my guess is you're going off something But no, I'm current on child support.
I'm going to take a quick break and see if anybody's in the Virtue Cast.
go to jail or anything for not paying child support. And I pay a lot of child support. I pay almost $30,000 a year in child support. I pay a lot of child support. So, but I'm current. What happened was, during COVID, I think it was about 200,000 people in the child support system, in the Texas child support system at the Attorney General's office. They missed a payment, but they didn't notify anybody. So I didn't know until 3 months later, so I was a month behind for 3 months, but I paid everything. So that's what that was.
Excuses. That is COVID. You're trying to not say that you are prohibited from talking about transgender issues. I can read. Shut the fuck up. I can read, and that thing says that you are
discussing cisgender, transgender,
within the hearing range of a child is what it says. Making any video, doing any type of interviews, news interviews, documentaries, television appearances, radio appearances, internet radio appearances, blog posts, social media posts, picturing the children doing live social media feeds of the children.
You have miseducated these students.
Why are you blaming him? No one knows what the fuck is your antenna with him. They haven't caught up. I don't think you have an argument. I'm throwing tomatoes at you.
So, I talked to them. All right, look guys, this is tomatoes. This is politics of the left. Show them a violation of human rights, and they yell tomatoes and good at you. This is leftist politics. This is what it's become. I used to respect the left.
We're going down to your
Back in the 80s, I quite respected the left. In the ACLU in particular, I used to give them money as a conservative.
We're going down your
Leftist politics went off the rails in the 90s.
Is that when you started our right? We're going down to your
Why did the right filibuster? Why did the right filibuster?
So I didn't answer. So he called me back in the afternoon with another name, a fake name. And he admitted that he used a fake name, so he didn't ask to come. And he wanted to interview me about the recent Attorney General opinion, which finds that chemical castration of children and sexual injuries on
Can you define chemical castration, please? Because if I hit your end, he's just going to keep laughing at us and recording us.
That's exactly right. So let's do
define
it.
chemical castration.
Can we do it again?
What is it and how
You want to
often
look
does
like
it
red
happen?
cards?
What is chemical castration?
What is it and how often does it actually happen?
Or-
Say that again. Say that again.
Or-
I'm hard of hearing.
Or
Can
do
you
you
repeat that?
want to listen to presentation
What
according
is
to our
chemical
American
castration?
social customs and norms?
What's chemical castration? I'm listening to you. I'm responding. What is chemical
I'm not
castration?
answering your questions until the end.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Dad. I bet you've never heard that before,
I'm
Dad.
sorry.
American customs and norms is racism. I don't want anything to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does this help you eliminate racism? Does shutting down speakers help you eliminate racism?
It's good practice. It's good practice.
You see what you've done, Professor.
Why are you blaming the professors? We are all here on our own will, just as you professors have nothing to do with them. By who? I don't even go to class. What do you want?
This is one of her most interesting comments. I don't even go to class. Let's listen to that again, because she's sort of here as a student, but...
You see what you've done, Professor.
Why are you blaming the professors? We are all here on our own will, just as you professors have nothing to do with them. By who? I don't even go to class. What do you want?
I don't even go to class.
You see, you can't child in dialogue. You can only yell at people. Your child is going to shut people
Dialogue
down.
requires a
And you
question and
actually,
answer.
you don't believe in
This is
any
not a
social
dialogue.
norms.
Yes, we do.
What social norms? You believe in human rights.
Asking people their pronouns, respecting their pronouns.
What is it?
Social norms. We have clothes on. That's a social norm.
That is true.
You're right.
What are your pronouns?
I probably have to be careful because one of the other characteristics of the left is pedantry. So when I say they don't believe in any social norms, they will actually use it as a complete logical universalization rather than a generalization. So let me say it again. Generally, the left wants to smash Western capitalist social norms.
Yeah. Why are you having that reflection on your tongue?
Part of that are things that developed over long periods of time for orderly discussion. And you can't follow this.
Hey, sir, we have a question real quick. Real quick, sir. I hate to interrupt, but they have a question.
So I think that
Answer the
I'm going to go back.
Answer the question. Be respectful. Social norm.
It isn't.
Come on,
It
sir.
isn't. It is not a social norm. Interrupt speakers. That is not a social norm. When you're invited by a group to listen to a presentation, it is not a social norm in America to interrupt the speaker.
It is a spelling rule. You stink it up.
You have been miseducated by
You have been miseducated.
disregard.
She raised her hand and she asked.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. Do you want to honor that social norm, or do you want to keep on doing your own
I
thing?
want to talk about what I came here to talk about.
So you don't want to follow social
to
norms.
talk about and try to anger us and get us to
You first. You first. I'll look at my scale.
Oh dear, the Gunt from Unt has now removed whatever top she had and is now just in the jog bra, or whatever it is.
Talk about what I came here to talk about.
So you don't want to follow social norms.
to talk about and try to anger us and get us to
You first. I'll look at my scale.
Yeah, there she is.
Come on.
I did it. What do you want?
Nothing.
They have a genuine question.
They have a genuine question.
I'm waiting to resume my talk.
Oh, you can wait.
Okay.
No one wants to hear what you have to say. There's more people outside. We're more concerned with their question. I'm more concerned with that.
They just don't know. So this reporter tells me, look, Jeff, I want to interview you because you've been at the forefront of this movement to stop what you call the chemical castration of children in Texas. And I said, look, I don't do interviews with like this video.
Am I here for Project Veritas?
Do you know what?
I know Project Veritas very well. That's all I'll say.
He was actually surprised. And he said, well, what can I do to gain your trust? And I said, I don't know.
Project Veritas is usually not this open about recording.
Please, Daddy, I'm a fatty ass granny. Please forgive me.
He said, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, go work for Fox News for a while. What's interesting about this discussion is he honestly has almost no idea that half the country thinks like I do about the New York Times. Like, it just seemed like it just didn't.
Cite your source. What are your sources?
So it was really strange.
Where's the citation page, sir?
So
can you show us the citation page?
It's the big one.
You're an idiot.
You louder right there. Mr. Texas, you should have put louder.
Okay, the state of Texas, the institution state of Texas.
Yes.
Your house personally. Governor Abbott wheeled up to your house and said, I'm going to personally ask for your child. For what reason? For what reason?
Next slide. These are my boys.
Kids.
James is on the right.
This is just weird. He's showing pictures of his sons, fraternal, not identical, but fraternal twins, James and Jude, dressed as boys, and the audience, completely hypnotized by the imagery being put out by Dr. Georgoulis, is saying, they're your daughters. They're your daughters.
Kids. Children. Kids.
James.
Children. Not sons.
I
Children.
named him after the brothers of Jesus.
What the fuck is the matter with you?
James is a talented boxer. He's even had Olympic talent coaches look at him. He's pretty good. Jude is pretty good at chess. He's even started to beat me at one point. I'm not super good at it, but he has great counter punching skills. Yeah, I think he actually is. This is my boys when they first learned how to make electric circuit. And Jude figured that all out first for himself. They read a book and figured it out.
Didn't get any of their smarts from their dad, thank God.
This is Jay. This is another thing. Like, it's randomly insulting people. That's not a social norm. That
It is for me. It is for me. I'm an ear.
Sorry. You've been miseducated by your professors to think this is normal. This is not normal. It isn't normal.
Professors have nothing to do with this.
Professors, this is your fault.
This was student organized.
This is James.
half the
James
country
wanted a
agrees with
suit
you. Why
for
did you
church.
lose the primary?
So this is me buying him a suit, his first suit for church. And this is James after hunting his first rabbit with a throwing stick.
Luna looks really good. She looks really pretty. I know.
You must be really.
This is what my ex-wife did. Really, she did it at 3.
Now, here we're starting to get into the Luna imagery, which is being applied to James by Dr. Georgoulis. And the kids being swept into this with what degree of volition, it's impossible for an outsider to judge. Unfortunately, I don't think we get very many images of James as Luna.
But what happened here was, on her website, my son was on there with this picture.
Your daughter.
And this is another thing. Interrupting speakers is not an American social norm. You have been miseducated. You have been miseducated. I'm sorry to tell you. I have to tell you what your professors won't. So, what happened was I was in court, and Miss Georgoulis made the claim that James always is a boy around her. Always a girl around her. So I produced this photo for the judge. Well, that can't be true because look what she has on her website. We were actually under a court order not to change anything. Websites, bank accounts, anything. And the next day she changed it and put it into distress.
We don't get a picture, unfortunately, of James in a dress, but there are plenty of pictures of James being put in a dress by Dr. Georgoulis, available elsewhere on the net.
Luna. Her name is Luna.
Why don't we just say her name? Luna.
Miss Georgoulis, interrupting speakers is not an American social norm. This is not how we behave as civilized Americans. I want everyone to see that you can't follow simple American social norms.
Neither can you.
You can't do it. A minute? I think we got a minute or two maybe. Your professors again have miseducated.
Professors, I don't even go to class.
They have miseducated. So, Miss Georgoulis basically filed for divorce to transition my son. I mean, that was what precipitated the divorce.
Your mom miseducated you.
Interrupting speakers is not an American social norm. It is typical of loutish behavior in our society.
Loutish?
I'm in a college and I use the word.
Define it. Where's the origin?
I'm so sorry. Jennifer Pape, who's a pediatrician in Flower
Hey,
Mound.
excuse me, you can't do that with my friends. No, you can go away. You can go away. Yes, thank you.
No, he can go anywhere he wants.
No, he cannot. No, they're my friends.
Hey, hold on. Hold on.
Sir, go away.
Everybody's at arm's length.
It looks like the cops are asking people to be an arm's length away, and we're starting to see some protesters engaged in objectionable behavior. The spitter is going to be up on the table and spitting in a few moments, at which point the cops shut down this event. The person who comes and leads Mr. Younger away, I believe that's one of the organizers. It might be Kelly. He seems to recognize her. He certainly would not go anywhere with any of the Black Bloc people that he didn't recognize. Because he recognizes her and because he goes off with her, I'm presuming it might be Kelly, one of the organizers of the event.
Please.
Jesus Christ.
I'm more than arms.
Don't you dare. Don't you record my friends.
She did grab my camera.
Pete.
Now, this is questionable unless you're really identifying with the trolling tradition that Mr. Younger is working with here. He repeatedly throws an objectionable pronoun at the Biscuit Banshee, who replies with her preferred pronoun. And here we have the spitter mobilizing here.
Hold on.
Sir.
Arm's length. Everybody's at arm's length. Please.
Jesus Christ.
I'm more than arms.
Don't you dare. Don't you record my friends.
She did grab my camera.
Pete.
Okay, so apparently the back and forth is referring to the person who grabbed the photographer's camera, the photographer at the window here.
Hey, police, I just got spit on.
Okay, the spitter is now fully standing on the table and launching into action. This is how, apparently, some people feel about pronouns.
Pronouns are he, him. If you don't like it, you can suck my fat cock. He, him, his. Your daughters are she, her. Her name is Luna, not the dead name that you keep calling her.
Yeah, this person seems very, very fierce about laying down the gender on someone that they don't even know. Mr. Younger has spoken at great length that he understands himself to be a man, that he understands his sons to be men, and this person feels that Mr. Younger's family is the correct place in which to inject this kind of strong language about gender.
I got it, man.
It's sir!
Sorry, man.
Sir!
Man.
Now here the gender issue becomes direct, and Mr. Younger's throwing the ma'am sir game directly at the gunt right here.
It's disrespectful! It's disrespectful right here!
You're a woman.
He's a man! He's a man!
You're also going to want to refer back to, for instance, Michael Knowles, who gave a speech at Men Are Not Women at the University of Missouri, at which he was doused with some, I don't know, lavender water or something. I made a poem about it. But Mr. Younger goes for the gusto here with the using the dispreferred gendered language.
More of a man than you are! He's more of a man than you are!
Listen, he actually believes that if someone disagrees with something, you can stand up and spit on them. That's how miseducated you are. You are so miseducated.
Someone is talking to the spitter here. I like that. You kind of have to police your own ranks when you're engaged in something so profoundly embarrassing as this. And presumably this person in the bottom left corner is saying, that's not a good look. You might want to not do that again, even though you're upset by what Mr. Younger is saying.
You actually you've been having it to their face in front of me. You will pay for this.
Now, the Gunt for Munt gets really out of control. Really out of control with the language here, which is worth listening to again.
You're a woman.
He's a man. He's a man. He's more of a man than you are. He's more of a man than you are.
Listen, he actually believes that if someone...
Watch that again. She's trying to tuck it in again here at 51:45.
That if someone disagrees with something, you can stand up and spit on them. That's how miseducated you are. You are so miseducated.
You actually you've been having it to their face in front of me. You will pay for this.
I didn't quite get all of that. I think the idea is that you misgendered someone to their face right in front of me. You will pay for this.
All right, guys. I want to thank you for showing the world.
Do you mind if I get my camera? Is there gonna?
I'm very grateful to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kelly.
Let's go. Let's go. Can I get my camera? No, let's go. Okay. Let's go. Get out of here, though. You're pulling us away. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
We're the officers.
There's people up back here you're waiting for.
Hey, let's go.
Which way should we go?
Where's the officers? Bruh.
There's people waiting by the back door here.
There's people up there. We need a...
Can I at least get my camera?
Jeff, go get his camera.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is my meeting. I'm the president.
We actually have a booth at y'all's convention coming up.
Really?
Yeah.
Who are you with? The
Americans for Parental Equality.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, just 1 minute left.
Jeez. Are you with Roger?
Who are you with? Forgive me for asking. I know who you're with. Who are you with?
Yeah.
You're with Jeff Younger. Who are you with? Okay, hold tight. That's it.
I helped to break the story a few years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. How many people do you think are out there in Austin?
It already gets maybe 200-300.
Seriously?
Gosh. I didn't even. I wasn't sure if we were
You
going
got some time. We'll get you out so
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Is Younger out there?
I think he was already escorted out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the end of that. I personally am. Thank you. I'm exhausted. I am headachy. I am sick to my stomach from watching this for almost 3 hours now. But I'm going to go back and we're going to finish up Cyebele and Attis. So that means I have to shift the screen again to me and Cyebele and Attis. As usual, the camera has frozen. Window camera minus. Yes. And now it was window display. Video camera minus. Yes. Add. Now I have to have the window capture. So that is the current window plus window capture. Okay. It's gone horribly wrong. Cancel. Plus window capture. Okay. But not that one. That one can be minus. Yes. No, it's done it wrong again. Minus. Plus window capture. Okay. Okay. Plus video capture. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm fairly sick of the entire subject now as we're moving from hour 3 to hour 4 of this because that's about 6:15 to 9:15. That's 3 hours of this crap. Let's finish up with the Cybele and Attis. So they awake this next morning after having celebrated this passionate Cybele rite, and they're exhausted. But wind and soul, with radiant eyes that fire his face of gold, surveyed white ether and solid soil and waters uncontrolled, and chased with steeds sonorous hooved the shades of lingering night. Then sleep from waking Attis fled, fleeting with sudden flight, by nymph Pasiphae welcomed to palpitating breast. Sedubiors aureis sol, radiantibus oculis, lustra vitae teralbon, soladura mare ferron, pepulitque noctis umbras, vegetis sonepedibus, ibi somnus excitatin fugiens quitus abiit, trepidanteon recepit dea pasitea sinu. Now here things start to get weird. This is the gender surgery scene from Ed Wood's transploitation movie Glenn or Glenda. And this is a boy staring at his own image, trying to create a male image by looking at his own body in a mirror. This is, of course, the myth of Narcissus, the myth of Attis trying to create a male image by presenting a beautiful, athletic male image to the other men, which it almost works, but in the end it doesn't. Thus, when his frenzy raging rash was soothed to gentlest rest, Attis revolved deeds lately done, as thought from breast unfolding, and what he'd lost, and what he was, with lucid sprite beholding. To shallows led by surging soul, again the way 'gan take, there casting glance of weeping eyes where vasty billows break, sad voiced in pitifullest lay, his native land bespake. Ita de quiete molli, rapida sine rabiae, simulipsa pectoratis sua facta recoluit, liquidaque mente vidit, sine qui subique foret, animois tuante rurso redituant vada tetulit, ibi Maria vasta visens lacrimantibus oculis, patria locuta maestas dita voce miseriter. So now we get the Bruce Jenner imagery. Bruce Jenner is a convenient imagery for the transition from someone who was quite the focus of admiration for his athletic prowess in the 1970s, but who subsequently went trans. Country of me, creatress mine, born to thee and bred, by hapless me abandoned as by thrall from lordling fled. When me to Ida's groves and glades these vaking footsteps bore, to tarry mid the snows and where lurk beast in Unter's frore, that means dark caverns, Unter's frore, and seek the deeply hidden lairs where furious ferals meet. Where, country, whither placed, must I now hold thy sight and seat? Lief would these balls of eyes direct to thee their line of sight, which for a little while, would free me from despite. Patrio mei creatrix, patrio mea genetrix, ego quam miser relinquens, domino soterre fugae, famuli solenta didae tetuli nemura pedem, ut apud nivet ferrarum gelidas tabula forem, et earum niadirem furibunda latibula, ubina quibus locis te positam patria reor, cupit ipsa pupla te sibi de regriaciem, grabie ferra carrens tum breve tempus animus est. So 2 images of Bruce Jenner receiving the highest Olympic honors, gold medal, in 1976. Bruce Jenner winning the decathlon, ego gymnasi fui flos, I was the flower of the gymnasium. Here we have the other side of the centerfold, the Vanity Fair cover, ego mulier, I a woman, call me Caitlin. This is Bruce Jenner, genitals more or less effaced, fake breasts, fake eye surgery, lipstick, God knows what's happened to the muscles in his arms. This is Bruce Jenner presenting his AGP image. Here's Bruce Jenner as the 70s stud that I remember him as the torn shorts and the chest hair and all that. Here we have the backwards. This is a famous passage in Catullus. Here we have the backwards aging through him as an ephebus, him as a puer, that is, say, as a boy and as a teenager. Must I forever roam these groves from house and home afar? Of country, parents, kith and kin, life's boon, myself debar? Fly forum, fly palaestra, fly the stadium, the gymnase. Wretch, ah, poor wretch, I'm doomed, my soul, to mourn throughout my days. For what of form or figure is which I failed to enjoy? I full-grown man, I blooming youth, I stripling, I a boy. I of gymnasium erst the bloom, I too of oil the pride. Warm was my threshold, ere stood my gateways opening wide. My house was ever garlanded and hung with flowery freight, and couch to quit with rising sun has ever been my fate. These are the older men who would hang out and try to get dates with him. Hegonea mea remote aic ferrarin nemoradomo? Patria bonis amicis genitoribus abero foro palaestra stadio et gymnasiis. Miser querendos etiat quecnanime. Quodinin genus figurais ego non quodobierem, ego mulier, ego alescens, ego epebus, ego puer. Ego gymnasi fui flos, ego eram tecus olei. Mihi ja nuae frequentes, mihi limina tepida, mihi floridis corollis redemita domus erat, linquendubiasse torto mihi sole cubiculum. Here we have some rather misshapen faces and figures of people who are trying to be male and not really understanding the pattern of masculine behavior. This would be your San Francisco-based what do they call themselves? The radical fairies and things of this nature. Now must I Cybele's she-slave, priestess of gods, be hight? I Maenad, I, mere bit of self, I neutral barren white? I spend my lifetime couched beneath high-towering Phrygian peaks. I dwell on Ida's verdant slopes, mottled with snowy streaks, where homes the forest-haunting doe, where roams the wildling boar. Now, I rue my deed fordone, now, it irks me sore. Ego nunc deum ministrat cubeles famula ferrar? Ego mainas, ego mei pars, ego vir sterilis ero. Ego viris algedidae neue amicta locacula. Ego vi tagan subaltis prugiae columinibus, ubi cerva silvi cultrix, ubi aper nemori vagos. Iam dolet quod egi, iam que painitet. So here we have a lovely image of someone with lipstick and a shaved face versus someone with no lipstick and a hairy, masculine, bearded face. We're trying to bring Cybele on, so this is Cybele with a mural crown like the top of a rook in chess. That symbolizes her ability to defend domestic space, to defend the city. She is not the goddess of the wild places like Artemis. She is not the goddess of the field like Dionysus. She is the goddess of the city. When as from out those roseate lips these accents rapid flew, bore them to ears divine consigned, a nuncio true and new. Then Cybele, her lions twain, disjoining from their yoke, the left-hand enemy of the herds a goading thus bespoke. Rosei sutvic labelli sonetus citus abiit, Geminas teu radaures nova nuntia referens, ibi iuncta jugare solvens cubele leonibus, laevunque pecoris osten stimulans icut ita loquitur. So I put divine in here just to show you a little bit of female aggression, divine and two lions, just to be fun. Up Pharaoh fell, up high with him, see rage his footsteps urge. See that his fury smite him till he seek the forest verge. He who with o'er freedom fain would fly, mine empery, go slash thy flank with lashing tail, and sense the strokes of thee. Make the whole mountain to thy roar resound and resound again, and fiercely toss thy brawny neck that bears the tawny mane. Cybele was typically represented in a chariot with a mural crown, with the drum, and with the lions as her symbol. Agedon inquitage feroxi, facut hunc furor ragitet, facuti furor resictu reditunt nemora ferrat, mea libere nimis qui fuger imperia cupit, age caede terga cauda, tua verbera patere, facunc tamugienti fremetu loca retonent, rutilant forox turosa cervique quate iuban. So this is Cybele putting forth her power. She is the sun keeper goddess. She has no intention of allowing Catullus Attis to ever escape. So quoth an angered Cybele, and yoke with hand untied. The feral rose in fiery wrath, and self-inciting hide, a charging, roaring through the brake, with breaking paws he tore. But when he reached the humid sands where surges cream the shore, spying soft Attis, lingering near the marbled pave of sea, he springs, the terror-maddened wretch, back to the wood doth flee, where for the remnant of her days a bondmaid's life led she. Ait haec minax cubebe, relegatque iuga manu, ferocipsis ad hortans rabiduin citatanemo, vadit, fremit, refringit virgulta pedevago, atubium id albicantis localitor saliit, tenerumque videt attin prope marmora pelagi, facit impilla de mens fugit in lemura ferra, ibi semper omne vitae spatio famula fuit. So I Googled the ugliest tranny on the net. The net delivered. This is the ugliest tranny on the net. I Googled another image, which of course, if you can't figure this out, this is Bruce Jenner's actual mother. This is the woman from whom he never was able to sever, never was able to leave behind, never was able to ever differentiate himself as a male image. This is the image which he is, of course, trying to recreate. He's always trying to be like her, be with her, dote on her, wait on her hand and foot, and be a slave to Mother Jenner here. So I wanted to show you a full and quite beautiful in its way image of Mother Jenner. This is a final apotropaic prayer from Catullus to turn away the terrible fate of being maddened and made crazy by Cybele. This is spoken in Catullus's voice. Great goddess Cybele, Dindymus dame divine, far from my house and home thy wrath, dread mistress mine, goad others on with fury's goad, others to ire consign. Lest I become a tranny like this. Dea magna, dea cubebe, dea domina dindumi, procula mea tu sit, furor omnis era domo. Alios ag incitatos, alios age rabidos. So that's the end of Cyebele and Attis as far as whether you find that convenient as a way of understanding what happened with the protesters at North Texas. That's, again, your decision. Hopefully people will jump in a live stream. We can have a discussion of that. Pindar Olympia Node is in fact in Greek. This is just a little teaser of that. This is the mighty Poseidon. This is the powerful male god who is powerful enough to pull the boy away from the mother. Another image of mighty Poseidon, and of course a cartoon from the Perry Bible Fellowship where everything is just as special as it can possibly be. Little boy building a sandcastle by the shore. It continually is destroyed by the waves. Poseidon himself appears and says in a very sympathetic way, I too have lost a kingdom. Join me. Let us begin anew. Unfortunately, the operative structure in which Poseidon is operating is not Homeric myth, nor is it Pindar's later recreations of Homeric myth. It is, in fact, the modern environment where approaching a little boy that you don't know is liable to get you classed as a sex offender, and here is Poseidon with his arms chained behind him and his cape dragging on the ground, being led off as a sex offender by the two cops here, whereas the other cop, of course, is pumping the little boy for a narrative. What did he do to you? Where did he touch you? Did he offer you candy? We all know the narratives. So, Ariston menhudor, hodec rusosai tomenon pure. Water is the best thing, but gold, blazing with fire, blah, blah, blah. We get all of Pindar 1. Okay, so we're going to wind it up here tonight. Not much longer than 3 hours, which is about what I thought. We did all of Cybele and Attis. We did all 55 minutes of the FAIR footage of the protest in North Texas. This has been VirtueCast number 3. We'll probably hit it every Saturday night as energy permits, as long as topics permit. I would like to transition to inviting other people onto the show so that I could interview them and get other perspectives besides my own. As a mathematician, I'm very much aware that whatever little mental structures I build are susceptible to being washed away and rebuilt in other ways by other people, and I want to foster that process. Other people have a lot to say. I will try to provide material that is stimulating to get conversations going and making people think that this is the place to be on Saturday nights. If anyone else shows up, besides my two stalwarts here, Robert Neal and Earl Pearl, God knows who they are in real life. I'm happy to have them, and I'll be happy to have more people showing up by and by. I really think an intellectual place where we can sit around and talk about boy love issues is a desideratum here in